Peter Parker, Gwen Stacy, they're in college, okay? Peter works at the Daily Bugle to help fund his college and to help Aunt May out because Uncle Ben's no longer alive. Peter Parker did have a scholarship. He did not apply for the full scholarship because he didn't have enough time because he was out being Spider-Man and saving the day and stuff. And Gwen Stacy applied for the full-time scholarship because she could, and she got accepted because she's smart. Not necessarily smarter than Peter, but Peter just didn't do it because he couldn't because he was being Spider-Man. So Peter's working at the Daily Bugle and for his college, for his apartment, and for Aunt May. And he's making he's making money with J. Jonah Jameson and stuff. Alright, that's established. Gwen Stacy does work at Oscorp. Peter doesn't like her working there, but she does anyway. That's established. There it is, right there. Let's keep moving. Peter goes to the Daily Bugle one day because J. Jonah Jameson has something going on. Something's going on downtown at the bank or something. Someone's robbing something. So, Peter goes there, and then J. Jonah Jameson's like, hey, take Brock with you. And he's like, Brock, and then they talk, and then they're going, and then they're talking, and then they find out about their parents working together in the in Oscorp, right. You understand what I'm saying so far? I hope I'm not moving too fast for you, okay? I hope I'm not moving too fast for you. So then they go to the bank robbery, and then Peter is like taking pictures, and then Peter separates from Eddie Brock, and he gets inside of Spider-Man, fights off some bad guys, saves the day. He sees Shocker in there. Shocker is robbing the bank, but he stops him. And you know what I'm saying? He goes to jail. You know what I'm saying? And then then Peter comes out, and then Eddie's like, "Where'd you go, man?" And Peter's like, "Went inside to get some pictures." And then Eddie's like, "Why didn't you take me?" And Peter's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I did him down." You know, that's what he says. That's exactly the words, because he messes up in front of Gwen. He can mess up in front of Eddie too. You know what I'm saying? So then they're talking, and then they keep talking about their parents and stuff. And then Peter's like, my girlfriend works at Oscorp, so maybe she can hook something up, and we can go there and we can find some stuff out, or maybe she can find some stuff out for us. And then he calls her up, and she's like, "Yeah, sure, I'll find some stuff out." Then later that day, she comes to his apartment, and Eddie and Peter are already there, and and they're looking stuff up. And then she comes, she's telling stuff. She's like, "Hi, Eddie, I'm Gwen." He's like, "Ooh, Peter, your girlfriend's hot." And he's like, "Thank you." And then they're talking, and then she tells him some stuff that she found out about, a little bit of stuff. And he's like, "Can you sneak some files or something?" And then she's like, "No, I can't do that. Of course I can." And then Peter's like, "Okay." And then that night he's like, "Well, Spider-Man can." And then Spider-Man sneaks into Oscorp. You know what I'm saying? He sneaks in, and then Gwen's already there. He didn't know. He's like, "Oh, Gwen's here this time of the night. Why is she here? I don't know. Whatever." So then he's sneaking around, and then he goes to he's looking around, and he gets on the computer. He types in his dad's name, and then he types in Eddie's dad's name. Then he comes up with the symbiote. Then he goes and he looks, and he's looking through stuff. He's sneaking through stuff, and then then he sees this vault. He goes to this room. It has this vault, and then he opens the vault because he's Spider-Man. He's super smart. And then in the vault it has the files, and then it has this bag when something's in the bag, and he grabs the bag and he looks inside, and it's this black stuff in this huge this vial, and he's like, "What is this?" And he's looking through the files, and then all of a sudden he hears, it's an alarm. An alarm went off. So he's hearing the alarm, and he's like, "Whoa, I didn't trigger any alarms." And he has a bag with him, so he puts the vial in his bag, and he puts this vial of the black goo, because he doesn't know what it is, in the bag too. And then he gets on the wall, and he's climbing through lasers and stuff, and then he's on the ceiling, and he sees some guards running past him, and he's like trying to make sure that he's not caught, because he doesn't want to be caught, because Gwen is there, and he just does. Spider-Man doesn't want to be caught. You know what I'm saying? So then he's like crawling on the ceiling, crawling, and then he sees the vent that he went in, and it's open. But he's like, "I closed the vent behind me," so he opens the vent back, and he's climbing through the vents, about to get out, and all of a sudden he hears shooting. He hears gun, stop, he's like, "What the heck is going on?" So then he looks through the vent, and it's this woman, like a woman. He's like, "What the heck?" It's not a black woman, but it's a woman in black with white hair jumping around, and it's gunshots, and she beating butt. She beating people's butt, and he like, "Oh crap, look at you, girl, beating butt, you beating butt, dang." And she disarming people, all Catwoman like, but she's not Catwoman. And he's like, just like, "What the heck?" And she has a bag, and she's like flipping around, and she's saying some witty stuff. She's kicking people in the face, being all seductive like, and he's like, ooh. And then a light shines up, and it's and he's like, and it's a light, and he's like, Spider-Man, get him! And then he's like, whoa, guys, and he says something witty, and then he jumps down, and he's like, listen, I don't understand what's going on here, but you've got the wrong guy. And then they aim the guns at him, and he's like, well... And then he jumps out the way, and the girl's looking at him like, ooh, it's the spider. And then they start fighting. You know, they're fighting back to back. Ooh, ooh, ooh. And then they beat everybody, and she's like, ooh, we need to do this more often. He's like, not really, but who are you and why are you here? She's like, I can ask you the same thing. She's like, and he's like, but you already know who I am. I don't know who you are. She's like, the name's Cat, Black Cat. And there's this window behind her, and she's like, well, I gotta go. And then she just jumps off, and he's like, whoa, wait! He goes up, she's gone. He's like, whoa! Then there's more guards coming, and he's like, it's a spider! And they start shooting, he's like, well, I have to go! He jumps out the window and swings off. Swings off. So then when he gets home, he looks at the files, and he's like, what the heck? What the heck? Whoa, whoa, what the heck? Whoa, whoa, what the heck? Symbiote? What is this? Came from space in the 90s.
John
Jameson Jr. was an astronaut that brought the symbiote down in 1991, and then when he brought it down, the symbiote went to Oscorp, and it was alive, and his parents worked on it. Him and Eddie Brock's parents worked on it. What? Oh my God! I have to call Eddie. We have to talk to Mr. Jonah Jameson. We have to find out what's going on now.
But then he's all like, how am I going to explain this to Eddie? I mean, Spider-Man's the one that broke into the Oscorp building, and how am I going to be able to tell him that I found all this out? And then he gets this idea. What if I say I Googled it? And that's precisely what happens. So he tells Eddie that he Googles everything, and Eddie buys it because Peter's his friend. And Peter's a trustful person.
So, Peter, Eddie, talk about it. Go to Jonah Jameson, talk about it with him. He doesn't know. He's like, well, do you have pictures? And Peter's like, yeah, I have pictures here. Well, now, can we talk to your son or something? And Jonah's like, I like both of you. I like you a lot. You make me money. You make me a lot of money. He's saying something funny. He's like, so is that a yes? And he's like, yes, now bring me more pictures, blah, 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 blah. And he was like, okay. And then later that day, Eddie and Peter talk to
John
Jameson, and they're talking to him, and he's telling them about stuff, and he's like, yeah, well, we brought it down, it was alive, I don't know what's going on, I didn't know, Oscorp got it, I didn't know, they didn't tell me anything else, but if you find out something, can you call me, let me know, and I'll tell you if I find out anything, whatever. Yeah, okay, sure. Alright, so then Eddie and Peter, they're hanging out, and then more crime was happening, so then Spider-Man has to go saving the day again. Then he sees Shocker, Peter's with Eddie, and then Peter, he's like, Eddie, hold on, I have to go to the restroom, because he sees sirens coming, and then they're in a restaurant or something, and they're talking about something, or at a diner or something, and they're talking about something. He's like, I have to go to the bathroom real quick, I'll be right back. And then Peter puts on the spider suit, swings over, following the cars, and then they're at another, they're at a place, they're at like a jewelry store, and it's this guy, and this Peter swing sent down, and he's like, oh goodness, it's you again? What do they call you? He's like, the name's Shocker. And he's like, whoa, and says something witty. And he's like, whoa, man, you need to realize that you can't keep breaking out of jail and doing all this stuff, It's not good for the environment. And then Shocker's like, your mouth isn't good for the environment. And then Peter says something like, oh, never mind. No, I believe that's your breath. And then Shocker's like, ah! And he's like Spider-Man's moving out the way. He's like, if you want to steal all this jewelry, the best way to do it is not to blow it everywhere. And then Shocker's like, shut up! And then Spider-Man webs his hands up, and he's like, oh, I can't get out. And then, Peter's like, well, see you later. And the police are like, Spider-Man, get him! And then Spider-Man's like, no! And swings away, waving, saying something witty, Then he swings back to Eddie, and Eddie's sitting there, and he's like, hey, bro. He's like, where'd you go? What did you do? He's like, he's like, okay, all right, and then Peter's like, yeah. So then they're talking about college, and then Eddie's like, so what college you go to? And then Peter tells him, and then Eddie's like, really? Oh, I don't go to college. I'm working at the Bugle, as you know that, and then I'm doing some other stuff. He's like, what are you doing? Well, I'm MMA fighter. And then he's like, what, you're an MMA fighter? He's like, yeah. He's like, I was wondering, you were kind of big. He's like, yeah, oh no. I want to go pro, man. I want to go pro. And then Peter's like, you could do that. I like that. I like that. That's very good, man. It's very good. You could do it. And then Eddie's like, thanks, bro. Thanks. And then, then he's like, well, I got to go. Because his phone went off. He's like, I got to go. It's the girl calling. And then Peter's like, you got a girl? He's like, yeah. Foxiest woman you'll ever know. And then Peter's like, I bet. He's like, all right, see you later, Pete. All right, man. So then Peter's swinging, and he goes home. He's exhausted, and he goes sleep. And when he goes to sleep, he starts dreaming about Uncle Ben and that night. And he's like, if I didn't, it's like he replays everything, him running away, him slamming the door, and Uncle Ben looking for him, and then he goes back to that part when he hears that gunshot and turns around and it's Uncle Ben on the ground. And he's like, Uncle Ben, oh my God. And then he remembers him, chasing after people that killed his uncle, and he remembers all of that. And then the camera showing Peter tossing and turning in the bed, and he's like, and he does that in his sleep, and he knocks over the vial that was right next to his bed that had the symbiote on it, and the symbiote falls on the ground. It's just on the ground, dormant, just laying there. And Peter's like, and wakes up. He's like, Then he gets up and he steps his foot off the bed, and he steps in the symbiote and walks over into his bathroom, looks into the mirror, puts his hands, he turns on the water, runs water on his hands, runs water on his face, he looks at himself in the mirror, rubs water on his face, and then every time he does it, so it's like it's the symbiote's growing up his leg and going up. So then he's like, first time he does it, it's like regular hands, then he does it again, and then it's like stuff, it's like black on his face, and he's like, and he looks at himself, and then it's like completely black, and he's like, what the heck? And he's like, what's going on? What is this? Ooh. Oh man. And he looks out the window, and then he jumps on it, and he's like, and he closed the window, and he jumps out, and he starts like jumping, and he's like, whoa, yeah, woo, yeah, whoa. Then he jumps, and it's like this really long bit, and he jumps. He's like, why did I jump? I don't have my web shooters. I don't have my... Whoa, it makes its own web! Oh my God! What is this? And he's swinging, and it makes its own web, and he's like, what is this? And my powers must be growing or something. Oh my goodness. And he's swinging, 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 and he sees these people, this woman being held up in an alley, and he's like, he remembers, nope, that happened to Uncle Ben, it's not happening to anyone else. And he swings down there, and the guy looks at him, he's like, it's the spider freak. And he's like, listen, you better back up or I'll blow her head off. And he's like, and pulls the gun out, and he pulls the guy close, and he's like, doom, like one big punch, like, and the guy's all bloody. She's like, thank you, Spider-Man, nice clothes. And he's like, thanks. And webs up, woo, woo, woo. Then it's this woman walking down the street, and then it's a semi truck coming out of control, and Spider-Man's looking at it, and he's like, whew, I can stop that. I can do it. He's not thinking about saving the woman. He's thinking, that woman's in danger. Instead of me saving the woman, how about I do something different? I can stop the truck. So he runs up to it, and he jumps, and he webs the front of the truck. He webs it, and he does a flip, pulls the truck completely over, so the semi does this. And then Spider-Man's on the other side, like, oh my God, why did I do that? Why did I just do that? Oh man, he goes to the driver, and he's like, hello? He's like, an additional driver, and he's like, what's going on? And then he looks down the street, and it's this explosion, and he's like, what the heck? And he swings over, and it's Shocker again. And then Spider-Man's like, I'm getting a little bit tired of you doing all this crap. Okay, I'm sick of it. You're going to jail whether you like it or not, and you're staying. And then he's like, oh, Spider-Man, I like your clothes. It's not gonna be able to save you though. Thought you might be around here. It was a trap. I trapped you. And then Spider-Man's like, I'm done. And he shoots him. And Spider-Man starts like, because he has symbiote and that's Sonic. He's like, oh my goodness. Roar! Like, because the symbiote is now enraged, so it's like, roar! And he swings up to Shocker and he's like, I'm sick of you. Boom! Boom, 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 boom. And it's like he's beating the crap out of Shocker. He's like, you're going to jail, and you're staying in jail, and you're not coming out, and you're staying in jail, and I'm sick of you. Who do you work for? And Shocker's like, he's like, boom, who do you work for? And he's like, oh, okay, leave me alone. He's like, what? Speak English. And he's like, the big man. Who's the big man? You don't need to know about the big man. You don't understand, Spider-Man. And he's like, stop rhyming! I'm sick of it! You're going to prison! I'm tired of you thugs on the streets doing whatever you think you can do! This is not the place for that! There are normal people trying to live their own lives, and you are trying to ruin them and take lives away from them! You are not what this city needs! And then he webs them, and he's like mad, he's like, ah! And he breaks like the side of this building, like it's like a band or something, and he breaks it and he's mad. And he's like, people like him are ruining this city. People like him are ruining the lives of people in this city. That woman would have been dead if it wasn't for me. I'm sick of people like this. People that take other people's family members. People. The person that took Uncle Ben. And then he's like starting to go crazy, and he's like, why did I stop? Why did I stop? That person had no right to take Uncle Ben from me. He doesn't have a right at all. I'm gonna get him. I'm gonna get him. I'm gonna get the person that took Uncle Ben away from me and not me. He didn't deserve that. Nobody. He has no right to take the right from no right to take the life of anybody, especially not my Uncle Ben. I'm gonna find him, and I'm gonna find him. If it's the last thing I do, I'm going to
hear this
find
ringtone coming, right? And you see this man walking down the hallways. You see his feet first, and the ring's going. The phone's ringing. He answers the phone. You see a hand go in the pocket. It's brown. Comes out. He puts the phone up to his head. It's Dr. Ratha. It's Dr. Ratha. Yes. All right. Answers the phone. I'm not gonna talk in the accent. I'm not doing that. Hello? Dr. Ratha, hi. Harry? Yes, Dr. Ratha. I wanted to know what's going on with my father. Where is he? I haven't seen him in over a week. He's out of the hospital. The hospital said he's out. He's been out, Harry. Where's my dad? He hasn't been at home. What's going on? Your dad's been working here at Oscorp, Harry. What do you mean he's been working at Oscorp? He's sick. What's wrong with him? Your father is very hard working. He knows that this is important. He does not want to leave here. He doesn't want to leave you. He doesn't? That's what he said, Harry. That's not what my father said. My father would never say anything like that. That's too nice to be my father. I'm actually going into a meeting with him right now. He called me in. Can I speak to him? I haven't talked to my own father in a week, and you're just going in talking to him. Has he been sleeping there? Here's your father now. Then, you see, Dr. Ratha's in Norman Osborn's office, right? Norman Osborn's office. And the chair, you see the back of the chair, and it's facing out of this window, and it's raining outside. You don't see him, but you see the back of the chair. And his hand goes out like that. And then Dr. Ratha's like, Mr. Osborne, your son, Harry, he's on the phone. He puts the phone in Norman Osborn's hand, and you still don't see him. It goes back. Now you see Harry, you've been seeing Harry and Ratha go back and forth throughout the whole conversation. You see Harry, and Norman doesn't say anything, and Harry's like, hello, Dad, is that you? And Norman says nothing. He's like, Dad, what's going on? Are you alright? Harry, when does school start? You hear a very, grunty voice. When does college start? I think tomorrow. You think tomorrow? Dad, I'm trying to I have a lot on my plate. What do you have on your plate, Harry? Girls? Drugs? Dad, I don't do drugs. Oh, okay. Well, I want you to focus on that schoolwork. Then you'd actually be something. Son, I am a successful businessman. Do you want to know why I'm successful? Because I'm hardworking. You need to be hardworking to make it in life, son. You're playing around. You're not taking school seriously. When I die, this company is going to be passed down to you. I don't feel confident knowing that you're next in line. Dad, I don't want to be this entrepreneur businessman. Son, what do you want to do? What can you possibly do? With the way that you act, you're not going to do anything. You're a disgrace to the Osborne name. And I expect for you tomorrow to take yourself into Empire State University. And I expect for you to graduate in honors. Son, do not disappoint me like you have previously. Dad, I'm not trying to disappoint you. Dad, you act like you know me. You don't know me. I know you're supposed to be an Osborne, but instead you act like a disrespectful brat. And you're a disgrace to the Osborne name, Harry. Dad, you don't click. Then the phone clicks, and Harry's sitting there. He's sitting there, and he throws the phone out of anger. Ugh! He throws it, and the phone hits the wall. And then Norman, he gives the phone back to Ratha. Is everything all right, sir? And you still haven't seen Norman yet, and it's just the back of the chair, and he's like, my son is going to be a failure. He's never going to leave my house. But I'll make him. Sir, I don't mean to interrupt you, but what did you call me in here for? Yes, the reactor, the power reactor. How's it going? We have our best engineers working on it right now, sir. That's great. That's good. Can you call Otto Octavius to me, please? It's right away, sir. And then Dr. Rath is walking out. As Rath is opening the door and leaving, Norman says, can you please give me the security footage from last night? Thank you. And Dr. Rath leaves. All right, so now we're back with Peter Parker. Peter Parker he's in his house. He's in his apartment. He's sitting on the computer. He's typing up stuff about the person that killed Uncle Ben, and he's becoming irate. He's becoming mad, and he's like, "Oh, this isn't fair. This isn't fair. My uncle did nothing to anyone. He tried to be the best uncle, and I couldn't even realize that. I didn't realize it. Why did it take for him to die? But he didn't just die. He was murdered. The person that did this had no right. If I could have just stopped him at the store, if I could have stopped him, my uncle would be here. I'm going to make it right, though. My uncle may be gone, but no one else is going to die." And then Peter starts typing up stuff. He's typing up his uncle's. He's trying to figure out stuff, and then he comes up with something about this mafia. Now, this mafia is like very, very crazy. He's looking at it and he's not understanding anything. And then he sees the name Hardy. He's like, Hardy, what? And he's like, whatever. And then the suit, because he still has it on, but he has on normal clothes. And then his normal clothes turn into the black suit, and he's like, oh man, it can basically change into whatever I want it to be. Oh man, is that why the spider suit came on? Is that why the Spider-Man suit? Because that's what I was thinking. I can make it go away. I can control it. Whew, yes. Then his spider sense goes off, and he looks out the window, and he looks, and he hears something. It's like something is calling him, and he looks out the window, and he goes out the window, and the suit starts coming on, and the black mask forms, and he has the black eye, and he jumps out the window and he swings, and then as he swings, there's a knock on his door, and it's Gwen. Peter, doom 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 doom. Open up, doom 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 doom. Peter. So then she calls him. And then as Peter's swinging, his phone's ringing, and he looks down. He pulls it out as he's swinging. He's like, it's Gwen. And he's like, you have to wait. And he puts it in, and then the symbiote is able to imagine it eating it, but So it's like this. It's like, and it goes into his suit. So then Spider-Man he's swinging, and then he stops. He just stops. He stops swinging and lands on a building, and he looks around, and his spider sense starts going like that. It starts going like that. And he pulls out his phone. He gets on his phone, and he's looking up gang hideouts. He's looking up stuff, and he finds something with Silverman, and he's like, Silverman. And he's trying to figure out the latest, hideouts, gang hideouts, for Silverman. And he's like, And he finds this warehouse. He's like, okay, this warehouse. And he GPSes it. He swings there. Now, I want you to imagine a scene. Now, imagine this. All right. So this is how it is. We see a whole bunch of guards moving something, right? Moving something, it's moving stuff, we see a whole bunch of criminal, thug, tough looking people moving stuff into this warehouse, right? Spider-Man standing out in the black suit looking down at him while it's raining. It's still raining now. It's raining. Spider-Man's looking down at him from a building, and they're down there moving stuff, and he's looking at him. This is the place. This is where the Silverman gang is. Spider-Man's spider sense is going crazy, so he's like, that man's here. I know it. Spider-Man swings inside. We see the people moving something. We don't know what it is. They're moving something, and it's covered by a sheet. They're moving something. Spider-Man swings in from the front window, from the window on top right. It's broken. So he's climbing. He's all sneaky, and he overhears, Silverman wants it in here. Okay, boom, they put that down. Spider-Man, he's climbing through the vent, on the wall and the ceiling, right? He's really quiet, really stealthy in the shadows. And then Spider-Man looks at this room, and he's looking at the room, and he starts climbing towards it, and you see this man come out. This man has the same hair. Spider-Man, he gets him, and while the guy's coming out of the room, right? So it's the doorway. Spider-Man climbs inside. He goes inside and webs him and pulls him in. He pulls him into the room, and he basically puts his hand on his shoulder and turns him around, and it's the guy. Spider-Man it's a flashback sequence that happens, and he's like, I could have stopped you before. I could have stopped you. And then then he looks at him, and he's like, it's Spider-Man! And Spider-Man, he punches him in the face like that. And he just starts bleeding very badly. It looks horrible. And the guy falls down, and Spider-Man's like, I always hold back every time I fight. I don't think I'm going to need to hold back. And then, as Spider-Man 3, remember when it was Venom would, it does that, but it's not stuff tendrils are connected. No tendrils. It's just, just gone. And it's just that. And he's standing over him, and the guy's on the ground. He like that, right? He's like on the ground, oh. And this is the doorway. This is Spider-Man. Windows behind him, right? And then, and Spider-Man webs him, pulls him close. He's like, do you know who I am? Do you know what you did? You took the man that I looked up to. You took my uncle from me. I could have stopped you, but I didn't. But now I will stop you. You're not going to harm anyone else in this city. And Spider-Man and Peter's loud. He is loud. And Spider-Man, he's holding, this is the doorway, right? And he turns them around. So now they're facing the windows. Spider-Man punches him once in the stomach. Boom. Not that hard. Not hard. Too hard. He's, as Spider-Man's like, you don't like it, right? You don't like pain. Imagine all the pain you put me and my aunt through. You don't understand what you did. And he hits him one more time. Boom. And then you hear a whole bunch of, he's in the room. Get him. And then Spider-Man pushes him through the window, right? But he's still holding him like that. So here's the window. This is the window, right? Spider-Man's inside the building, and he's holding the guy like that, right? He's holding him. And then he steps back in, and he puts him in. He's like, and he's looking at him. And then he's looking at him right in his face. He's like, you are the reason that my aunt feels pain and cries every night. You are the reason why I didn't want to leave, but she insisted that I left. You are the reason that I have to get a job and I have to pay my aunt's bills and all of. You are the reason. If it and you know, as Peter is going, he's just talking, and then guards come in from behind Peter. You know, like a whole bunch of thugs, and they're holding like assault weapons, and they're aiming at him, and they're like, "Don't move, Spider Boy!" And remember, they're looking at the back of Peter's head. His mask is gone, and Peter's spider sense goes off, and and everything slows down. Everything slows down, and Peter's like, and everything just slows down, and then you know, the symbiote. You see the symbiote start crawling up like that. It starts like consuming. And then the background turns to white. Imagine the background turning to white, right? Turns to white. Then we just have Peter standing in a white room. It's just everything's white, like very bright white. And then we have Uncle Ben appear in front of Peter with his hand on his shoulder, saying, "Peter, it's all right." And Peter's standing there looking at him. And Peter starts crying. He's not, you know, like Tobey Maguire. He's, you know, tears just coming. He's like, "It's all right, son. It's all right. You don't need to avenge me, Peter. What happened, happened, and it is not your fault. Peter, you have done great things in the past year. You have saved countless lives. You have made this city a better place. Don't beat yourself up." "But Uncle, I could have stopped him. I'm the reason for..." "Peter, you're the reason that the city is a better place to live than last year. If it wasn't for you, who knows how the city would be right now? Who knows the countless lives that would have been lost? Peter, I am proud of you. I am proud. Your mother would be proud, and your father would be proud. And about your parents, Peter, talk to Connors. Talk to Connors and you will find out things that you want to know. I love you, Peter. You are a wonderful person. Don't take out your anger on this man. This man is confused and he has nothing left for him, Peter. I love you." Then Peter's crying and everything. He's really crying. And then the white fades back in. And then we go back and Peter is like right in front of the guy. And his symbiote is like you see on his face. It's like forming back. It's forming. The people behind him, they come in. The people behind him are like, and they got their guns. And you hear everything getting ready. And Peter, he runs, jumps over the guy, goes out the window, webs the guy. Then you start hearing gunshots and webs the back of the guy, pulls him out of the window and swings, holding the guy by his web, swings onto a nearby building. And he pulls the guy up, and when he looks at him, he has bullet wounds all in his chest. Then Peter violently wakes up. Then he hears some da 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 da. And that's his ringtone. Yeah, I went there. That's the Easter egg. That's an Easter egg. His ringtone is the Spider-Man 3 black suit music with Tobey Maguire's famous. Anyway, so Peter, he rubs his eyes, he picks up his phone, he's like, hello, he's groggy, just waking up from that terrible, terrifying dream, or whatever you want to call it, that eye-opening dream, whatever. He answers the phone, hello? It's Jonah Jameson. He's, Peter Parker. He's like, yeah? He said, oh, how are you? How are you doing? How are you? And Peter's like, he's kind of weirded out, he's on the phone, he's like, I'm alright, Mr. Jameson. He's like, that's good. What are you doing right now? So I just woke up. Oh, really? You just woke up? Yeah. Can I ask why you're calling me? What's going on? Oh, no reason. I just wanted to know I was firing you. What? Why are you firing me? What did I do? No, I just wanted to realize, and you can go back to sleep. Mr. Jameson, why are you firing me? Oh, it's just some huge police chase happening, and my photographer He's sleeping on the job. It doesn't matter. Eddie can take care of it. You know, Brock will get it. You go back to sleep and find a new job too. Mr. Jameson, I'm sorry. I'm right on it, sir. I'm right on it. And he hangs up. He gets up and he goes into his bathroom to just put some water on his face, and he puts the water on his face, and then he looks over, and he's like, okay, there's a police chase going on, I need to go down there, you need to give me some pictures, you need to be Spider-Man, alright? So he goes into his closet, Spider-Man suit's not there, then he goes, he walks back into the bathroom, and then he walks past, and he's wearing a suit, and he's like, and it's like the new Spider-Man 2 suit. He's like, whoa, where is this? What is this? This is cool. Even like new web shooters and everything. So it's the Amazing Spider-Man 2 suit. It's the symbiote, because the symbiote can form anything, right? And he's like, nah, I can dig this. This looks nice. Yeah. So then he jumps on out and he web swings and he swings. So now we cut to Max Dillon. All right, Max Dillon. So we see an apartment. The apartment's kind of distraught. It's kind of, you know, freaky, crazy. And Max Dillon he's laying in his bed, and his alarm goes off, and it's the Spider-Man theme song. On his wall is like a whole bunch of Spider-Man posters, and he goes and he brushes his teeth. He's brushing his teeth to the Spider-Man theme song, and he's feeling pretty good. He's all right. It's his birthday. He's like, he sees the Spider-Man poster while he's brushing his teeth to the Spider-Man theme song. He's like, yeah, it's my birthday, Spider-Man. Yeah, thanks, man. Thanks. And he's all brushing his teeth, and he's like, he's feeling all right, And he looks at his phone, and it's no calls or anything. It's like about 10 a.m. He needs to be at work by like 11, 12. So he's good. He's ready. And then he's ready to go. He's all dressed, and he's about to leave. And then he's like, wait a minute. My work. I forgot about my work. He's all happy and stuff. And then he's looking. He goes to his desk. It's all messy, a messy desk. And he's push stuff off, and he can't find his work. So he starts freaking out. He's like, where's my work at? I need to find my work. He's looking around for his work. He's like, this isn't my work. This is my work. And then we do this little montage with him. It's like fast. I'm running around the room looking for the work. And we see the clock. The clock is going like that. And it's going, and it's going, and it's going. And now it's 11:30. And he needs to be there by 12. And he's like, what is going on? Where's my work? Where's my work? And then he looks over at his bed, and his work. He grabs it quickly, and he is out the door. He is running. He is freaking, I gotta get there. I'm gonna be late. I got a presentation today. He's running. He gets on the subway, and he's just running. He's in a rush, okay? So he's on the subway. All right. Cut Spider-Man. Spider-Man web swing and swing, and then he gets to the police chase. He sees a whole bunch of police officers, and he lands on the car. Hey, what's going on, Mr. Officer, police officer, sir? He's like, Spider-Man, what are you doing? There's this crazy madman on the loose, and he's going down driving this huge truck. He's just destroying everything, and it's crazy. He took something apparently from Oscorp. The Oscorp, they call it, it's crazy. And he's like, okay, no problem then. And then he jumps off the car. We see him leaping from car to car at this high-speed chase. A whole bunch of police cars. Spider-Man is leaping from car to car to car, doing a whole bunch of stuff. Then is this police truck. He just gets on and he's hanging on, and he jumps off of that. And then he sees the big truck in the front, leading. Spider-Man leaps on to the truck, and he's like, "Excuse me, sir, but you're going too fast. I'm gonna have to ask you to pull over." And there's Paul Giamatti, it's the Rhino, Lesky Skekskevich, and he's looking at him. He's like, "What are you doing, you bug? Get up, you stupid!" Yeah, he's trying to get him off, and Spider-Man's all up like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa!" And then Lesky Skekskevich turns, and he hits this not a school bus, but a bus. He smashes the side of a bus, and the bus goes like shoom, and the people are in the bus, and they're like, whoa, ah! There's people in the bus, and then whoa! And then Spider-Man jumps off of that truck, and he goes over to the bus, and he webs the side of it, And then it's like it's not working, so then he flips over, and it's this family, this Asian family, and they're like, oh my god. And they're standing there, and the bus is about to go over, and Spider-Man jumps on it, and then we see that thing when he's like stopping the bus, and he's like, no, he's not gonna hit him, and he stops it. And then, meanwhile, while that's happening, it's the truck is going, and the police are coming after him, and now some other cars come out, and they have Oscorp on the side, they've been stolen, and then it is mobsters. They have assault rifles. They are on the back of the trucks shooting at the police officers. Police cars rocketing, like people getting shot in the police cars, and then spinning out, causing big crashes. And then it's crazy. And Spider-Man, after he's done with the bus, he runs over, he jumps, he's swinging, gets to the truck driver, right? Gets to the trucks with the assault rifles and all them, and he webs them up, and he webs up the wheel, spinning the truck out, and then the truck stops. They kick out the back, and they're shooting at the police officers, and then Spider-Man webs them all. He puts them, and they're webbed up. Now, all that's left is this guy driving this truck, this madman. The Daily Bugle helicopter is following. Meanwhile, Spider-Man webs when he looks up there, and he sees that it's Eddie Brock. He's in the helicopter. Anyway, so he keeps webbing, he's web swinging, then he gets to the truck. And Alexei Sketskovich sees him on the truck. He's like, I told you to stop. And Alexei Sketskovich is like, I will kill you. I can't do an accent like that. Meanwhile, Dillon gets off the subway. He gets all off. He's running to get to Oscorp on time. He looks at his clock. It says 12 o'clock. He is late. He is running. He darts across the street. Here comes this truck coming at him. It's coming. He's looking like, and now he's completely like, this is what I'm going to die. And Spider-Man out of nowhere saves him. He saves him. And he does the whole thing with the wiping his head. He's like, are you all right, Max? He was like, how do you know my name? I'm a nobody. He's like, your name tag is right there, and you're not a nobody. And he helps him out, picks up his stuff, then he goes back. Spider-Man punches the windshield. He punches the windshield, and his hand goes to the windshield, and he grabs Alexei by his collar and pulls him up to the windshield. And Alexei slams on the brakes, and he hits his head on like his steering wheel. And Spider-Man releases. It's like, boom, oh! And then the truck turns, and it turns like into this alleyway. And Spider-Man jumps off, and Alexei gets out, and he's angry. He is pissed, and he pulls out that assault rifle, because they are assault rifles. He's like, you will die. I'm tired. What is that accent? He's like, I'm sorry. You will die. What's a Russian accent? You will die. I'm tired of you, basically. Essentially what he's saying. He's all mad. His face is super red. Spider-Man looks at him, and he jumps. And he does that thing we see in the trailer. And Alexei's shooting at him. Spider-Man kicks him in the face. He kicks him right in that chin. And Alexei goes, oh! And he falls down. He's like, nah, buddy. I'm gonna have to ask you, what are you doing? You're not supposed to be shooting, and you're not supposed to be freaking doing all this. Sir, excuse me, okay? Listen, this isn't cool. And then Spider-Man, he has a phone on him, and he hears it's like ringing. Now he's like, excuse me for a minute, and he webs Alexei's feet to the ground. Now Alexei is like, he's like down like that, and his feet are like right next to each other, and he's down. So excuse me for a minute. He pulls out his phone, and he's like, yeah, and it's like basically in the mask and everything because of the symbiote. So he's like, yeah, what's going on? He's like, hello, and it's Gwen. She's like, yeah, Peter, I just was calling you about a date tonight. He's like, a date? Sure, I'd love it. Sure, where at? He's like, in Chinatown somewhere. He's like, okay, yeah, that's fun. Heck yeah. She's like, I love you. He's like, I love you too. All right, and then hang up. And then while he's on the phone, though, Alexei is getting up, like rustling himself up, and he is angry, and his feet are still together. And then and Spider-Man turns around, and he's like, what are you after? And then he's like, he's like, "You'll never know," or something like that. And then he's like, and Spider-Man looks over, and it's like in his back pocket is like this valve or something. Spider-Man's like, and he grabs it, and then Electro's like, "Rah! I am going to kill you, I swear." And then Spider-Man is like, "Okay." And he's like, "I swear I will kill you. You will not be able to live anymore in this town. I will kill." And Spider-Man webs his pants down. He says, "All right, peace, man, peace." Yeah, and then he turns around and he does a little funny dance or whatever, it's supposed to be funny. And then he gives the valve to the police officers, and that's cool. So now, Max Dillon, he's like, "Spider-Man, just saved my life." So we already could get to the idea that he would loved Spider-Man, but now with him meeting Spider-Man, it's like, dude, Spider-Man, I love this dude. He already loved him, but now it's like bigger than that. It's bigger. Max Dillon, he runs into Oscorp. And we see Gwen, and she is hanging up the phone, and she's on the elevator, and he's like, hold that elevator, hold that elevator, hold that elevator. And she just got off the phone with Peter. That's why she hung up. And she holds it, and he gets it, and he's like, oh man, he looks at her, and she's like, hi. And he's like, hi. Oh man, this morning was great. I met Spider-Man. He's a cool guy. He saved my life. He's so freaking awesome, right? She's like, yeah, he is pretty cool. He's like, yeah. And he's kind of weird or whatever. So then he get off the elevator. Gwen goes this way. He goes that way. He is going to his cubicle. And he gets his stuff. And then when he's in the midst of getting his stuff, he hears somebody say something. They say something. And we don't hear it. And he's like, what? And there's people walking. And he's like, what'd you say? And they look back. And it's two people. We don't know who they are. Did you guys say something about an hydroelectric field or something? What did you guys say? And they look at him. And they're like, nah, man. No, we didn't. No. And he's like, oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. And he grabs his stuff and then he goes to this office where he's supposed to have a meeting. So when we get a look at the stuff, it's like schematics for like a hydroelectric field and stuff. And yeah, it's pretty dang nifty. And he's going to this place, and as soon as he knocks on the thing, like knocks on the door, somebody comes over to the side and like, hey, what's going on, Max? Oh, I had a presentation. He's like, you had a presentation? He's like, yeah. When was the presentation for? It was 12 o'clock. It's like, Max, it's 12:15. Yeah, I know. I had this thing happen. Did you hear about? It was some crazy truck almost hit me, man. He was like, oh, well, there's already someone else in there right now. He's like, really? Who? And he's like, that doesn't matter. He's like, really? Somebody else is already in there? Yeah, they're presenting. Sorry, man. It's like, oh, well, maybe I'll just get it next. Maybe I'll get it next. All right. So then he sits down and he's there and he's waiting. And then, then it's like the clock, we see this clock like going by, kind of reminiscent of when he was looking for his work in his house. We see this like kind of montage of the clock going by and him sitting there, and then the doors open and some people in suits come out. He's like, and they shake hands, and he's like, thank you very much. And then he's like, excuse me, sir, excuse me. And he says, Mr. Minkin, excuse me. He says, oh, hi, Max. And he's like, Mr. Minkin, I'm sorry that I was late. I had this whole crazy traffic situation, and I wanted to know if I could present now. He's like, you know, I understand what you're saying with the traffic situation, but you know, you can't be late. He's like, I understand, Mr. Minkin. I've been working here for 10 years. I'm good, okay? I'm sorry, sir, but it won't happen again. Please, I have this amazing proposal for you. It's amazing. Please. He's like, okay, sure, but I don't think the board members, they're going off to lunch. So how about you do it today, like at 1 o'clock? All right. Well, then you can have your presentation then. So then we have Max Dillon. He goes to his desk and he puts down his stuff and he gets up and he leaves and he's feeling all right. You see, his face is not like when he first woke up when he was smiling and dancing and brushing his teeth. Now his face is more kind of like a just average, like, okay. So now he leaves Oscorp and he goes to the store and he picks up this card. He picks up this card and it says happy birthday. It says happy birthday. He picks up the card and he buys it, $1. He buys it. And then he leaves and he goes back to Oscorp and he's sitting there and he sits and he just sits and we see another montage of the clock going. And now it's past 1 o'clock. It's like 1:30. And Max Dillon's face is now, he's looking kind of annoyed and upset. And he gets up from the seat that's like, it's kind of like a waiting room. He gets up and he goes over to it's the desk where this lady, and he's like, excuse me, but where's Mr. Minkin at? And she says, oh, he stepped out for lunch. He was like, yeah, he told me he would be back here at 1 o'clock, him and the board members, because I had a presentation for them. And she's like, oh, okay, I'll call him right now. It's like 1:30 now. And she calls him, and she hands him the phone, and he gets the phone. He's like, yes, Mr. Minkin, it's me, Max. You said that we would do the presentation at 1 o'clock. He said, oh, you know what, Max, I'm so sorry. I got kind of held up. Just give me a brief rundown right now. Okay, well, sir, it was about the hydroelectricity plants. I was thinking about how we can conserve energy and also power the entire city with the hydroelectric.
You know, Max, we've already been working on that project for about 3 months now. We're actually building the hydroelectric field near the George Washington Bridge.
He's like, what? And then his face completely changes. His face completely changes. It went from, in the beginning, when we first saw him, he was happy. Then he got saved, and he was like freaking ecstatic. And then with him waiting, his face began to change, you know. And now it's just kind of like a sadness. So he hangs up. He says, okay, Mr. Minkin. He hangs up and goes to his desk, his cubicle. He sits there, and he doesn't understand. Mr. Minkin told him that it's in the final stages, that they've already developed this. It's already in the final stages. And he doesn't understand. And then we look at his work. Again, detailed looks at his work. He's looking at his work and we see it detailed. We see the hydroelectric plant like stuff. We see all of the work and he's sitting there and he doesn't understand. So then the day is over. He goes. It's like nighttime. And he leaves Oscorp. And he goes to his mom's house. And he knocks on his mom's house, her door. It opens. He's like, hey, Mom. She's like, hey, baby, or whatever. And hugs him, you know. And he sits down. She's like, so how was your day? And he was like, not that good. Someone apparently stole my work. And I don't understand because I've been working on this for so long and someone else stole my work. And she's like, oh, that's sad. I'm sorry. He's like, but I got saved. I almost died. Spider-Man saved me. But someone stole my work and I couldn't present. So, you know, it's a bummer. It's a drag. She's like, oh, I'm sorry. And she's like, yeah, I've been so busy. And she's like, kind of like dressed up. And he's like, where are you going? She's like, I'm going out. I'm about to have fun. I'm about to go party. He's like, oh, okay. And he's looking at her, you know, smiling. She's like, what's wrong? Do I look good? He's like, yeah, you look good. And he's just looking at her like he wants something, like he's waiting for something. And she's looking at her. She's like, so do you want to spend the night? And he's looking at her. He's like, no, Mom. And then she's like, well, it was nice of you stopping by, but I'm about to go. And he's looking at her. And he doesn't know what to say. And again, we see his face go from smiling to like a almost hurt, you know? Like it's almost hurt. It's hurt. And then he's like, well, I guess I'll go. She's like, all right, you be safe. And get yourself a girl or something. And he looks at her and he's like, all right, Mom. And he leaves. And he's hurt. And then we see him as he was holding a bag with all of his stuff. And we see like he put his birthday card. And when he opens it up, his happy birthday, Max. He wrote it himself. And he looks at it. He's like, happy birthday, Max. And he walks and he drops it. And he kind of tears up a little bit. Then we see him walking. And the camera's back and he's just walking home. Now we cut to Peter Parker. Peter Parker, he meets Gwen. She's like, you're late. And he says that he goes to do the thing that was on the in the trailer. Did you being late have to do it? You getting shot at by machine guns? And he's like, yeah. And then she's like, oh, I'm so sorry, Peter. I really worry about you. But this guy today, he told me that you saved his life. And he's like, really? He's like, yeah. He's kind of an awkward fellow. Yeah. He's like, oh, okay, that's cool. And then they're happy and they're talking and all that. And they're just happy. They're in love. And it's so cute. And they're on a date and laughing and having so much freaking fun. It's great. It's great. It's such a happy moment compared to what we just saw with Max Dillon. It's so happy. It's a happy moment. She's talking about how she wants to go to Oxford, and he's like, you should go. And she's like, but I don't want to be that far away from you because they're so in love. It's so cute. I don't want to be that far away from you, Peter. And then he's like, oh, it's all right. It's all right. You know, I want you to be happy. And if you want to go to Oxford, you can go to Oxford and everything. And she's like, you know what? Thank you. And then she's talking about how she may be able to go on a trip to see the campus and visit the campus and stuff. Like I said, they're in college. And see the campus and visit the campus and all that. And he's like, you do it. You should do it. And she's like, seems like a good idea. I will. And then we have them kiss and everything. And she's talking about the program is like in a week or two. And he's all happy and she's all happy. And it's all lovey, dovey, lovey, dovey. But shovey, my lovey, my love, lovey to lovey. And then they kiss at the end of their date and they go off on their way. And it's like a scene reminiscent of what we just saw with Max Dillon when he was walking. Except for it's not dark. It's kind of lit up and stuff and everything. And yeah. And they walk. And the camera stays back and they walk. Right? And they walk. And then next scene is Spider-Man. Peter Parker. Him going to the Daily Bugle. He's going to the Daily Bugle. And he has some pictures. Now, we didn't see him take any pictures on screen, whatever. But he took pictures. We're just going to assume he took pictures because he has pictures. And he goes up and he walks up there. And we see Betty sitting at the desk looking at him. And she's like, yeah, the boss, he's mad. He said he fired you. He's like, when does he not fire me? She's like, okay. She's like, go on in, Peter. He goes in, and then Jonah Jameson's office is there, and he knocks on the door, and then we see Jonah Jameson. He looks up at Peter, and he's like, what? and Peter's like, can you open the door? Can I come in? And Jonah Jameson looks at him, and he's like, I thought I fired you. He's like, you did, sir? He's like, so what are you doing here? You're fired. That means you don't work here. That means you leave. You're not here. No. And he's like, but I got pictures, Mr. Jameson. He's like, and he just looks at him. And he just, it's like a funny moment. It's like, what? And Peter's face is going like, he just looks at him. He's like, what's wrong? He was like, I said you were fired. I just wanted to, maybe you didn't understand English. Robbie opens the door. He's like, excuse me, Peter. Hi, Peter. Excuse me. Opens the door, goes into Mr. Jameson's office. Yeah, we got pictures from Eddie Brock. The big police chase thing happening with Alexei Sketskovich, and he is right now in holding and everything, and Spider-Man got him and stuff, and yeah. And Eddie is walking up, and he says, hey, Peter, he was in. He's like, hey, Eddie. He's like, hey, man, what's been going on with you? He's like, nothing. He's like, what? Did you see that police chase? He's like, yeah, I was right there. He was like, really? I didn't see you. I was in a helicopter. He's like, who you were? Yeah, I was there. He's like, I didn't see you. But I saw Spider-Man, though. He was doing some sweet stuff. He was beating somebody. He got those people that was shooting. It was pretty cool. He's like, yeah, well, sure. Yeah, I was there. He's like, oh, okay. And they're kind of having a nice little friendly conversation and stuff. It's pretty cool. It's pretty friendly or whatever. And then we hear, what is this? From like the office. We hear that from the office. And Eddie and Peter both look over, and J. Jonah Jameson, he's holding the picture and he's looking at Eddie. And he's holding the picture, and the picture is like a picture up ahead of like from overhead of like the truck and Spider-Man on it, and him and like that, and the police behind. And Eddie's like, that's a picture of what happened, sir, yesterday. And J. Jonah Jameson looks at it and he says, you know what it looks like to me? Crap. Kind of like an Easter egg from the first one. And Eddie goes like, and Peter looks at him, and he says, you. J. Jonah Jameson says, you, come here, Parker, come here. And Peter walks up, and he says, hand me your pictures. And he hands him the pictures, and the pictures look really good. It's like overhead shots, and then shots directly of Alexei Sketskovich, and directly of Spider-Man, Alexei Sketskovich, and all that. And he's like, and he looks at it, he's looking at all of them. He's like, and he looks at him, and then he looks at Eddie. So he's like holding him up in the light, and it's like this funny. It's like, what is he doing? And it's like he's holding him up to the light, and he's like inspecting a dollar bill or something. Like, he puts him down. He gets his cigar, and he looks at the both of them. He says, "You know what? You both work for me. Okay? You both work for me, and I like these pictures." And they're like looking like he's waiting for him to finish his thought. And they're looking at him. He's like, so what's going, what is it? What, Mr. Jameson? And he's like, I like your pictures. I give you both $20. $20. I take that. I take it. That's a good. What do you think, Robbie? And Robbie says, he doesn't say anything. He steps back. He's like, what is he? And Eddie goes, $20, sir? No, no, sir. I'm not getting. No, you're not paying me $20 for this, sir. $20. You don't want it. So you're too good for $20. You're too good for the Daily Bugle money, huh, Mr. Brock, Mr. Edward? What do you say, Edward? What is it? What is it? He's like, Edward Brock Jr., sir. Edward Brock Jr. Okay, you're too good for $20. What about you, Mr. Parker? What about you? Are you too good for $20? Peter says, "Sir, I'm sorry. I'm gonna have to be with Eddie on this one. I'm not $20. Not for this." He's like, "Okay. I give you $21." And like Peter almost like just starts laughing, and J. Jonah Jameson's like, "Is this something funny? Is this something funny, Mr. Parker? Something funny?" He's like, "No, not at all, sir, not at all." And Eddie, he like makes kind of a joke in Peter's ear, and like they start kind of snickering. And Mr. Jameson's like, "Well, this isn't high school, boys. This is a real working business where business takes place. Okay, you guys want me to put this picture in my paper? $21, huh? You can go and you can get yourself a nice a nice melon. And then you can get another melon. And then you can get, and it's just hilarity. It's just like, what? And then like Eddie and Peter are just looking at him like, what? Because they were just laughing and they're just now looking at him like, and Robbie is like, come on, sir, you got to give him something more. He's like, and he looks at Robbie, he looks at them, he looks at the pictures, and he looks at them, and he looks at the pictures. He's like, okay. $22. Then Eddie is like, 100. And J. Jonah Jameson, he drops the cigar. He's like, 95. And Eddie is like, 98. Then J. Jonah Jameson is like, 100. That's it. That's as high as I'm going. He's like, deal. And then Peter and Eddie are walking out, and they're walking, and then Peter's like, so Eddie, you said you fight. I want to see one of your fights one day. It's like, you know what? I'm having a fight tonight. He's like, really? He's like, yeah, you can come on. It's going to be like around like 9 o'clock or something. He's like, yeah, that'd be sweet, man. That'd be awesome. Now we see Harry Osborne. Harry Osborne is sitting in his penthouse. He's like moving his fingers like this. And he's sitting there. And he has this blank stare. And then he begins to tear up a little bit. And then he reaches for his phone. And he calls Reggie Dratha. It's ringing. It's ringing. It's ringing. It's ringing. It's ringing. No answer. Hi, you reached Reggie Dratha. Blah, 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 blah. No answer. Harry hangs up. He gets into his car. It's like a Porsche. It's a really nice sports car. He gets to his car and is driving to Oscorp. He gets to Oscorp. The security guard outside. He throws him the keys. Hey, can you park this around back or something or do something with it? I don't know. And the security guard's like, sir, what are you talking about? There is no valet. He's like, thank you. And Harry walks straight in to Oscorp. There's his desk, and the person sitting at the desk, he's like, hi, I'm here to see Norman Osborn. And she looks at him. Norman Osborn, sir? What? He's like, I'm here to see Norman Osborn. And she's like, and he's like, Norman Osborn is my father, and I do know that he's here. And she's like, Norman Osborn's your father? He's like, yes, I'm Harry Osborn. She's like, you're Harry Osborn? He's like, yes. Now, I would like to see my father. Now. She's like, one moment, Mr. Osborn. She gets on the phone. She's talking to someone. He doesn't know who it is. And then they say, okay, Mr. Osborn, these two gentlemen are going to escort you upstairs. And so he's like, okay. And it's two security guards, two Oscorp security guards. So then they escort him to the elevator. They get on the elevator, and Harry looks at him. He says, well, how much do you guys make per hour? And like, Mr. Osborn, we make about $27 an hour. He's like, oh, okay. Duly noted. And like, okay. So then they get off the elevator, and then they're in the same area where Max Dillon was when he was waiting. He goes up to the counter. The same woman is there. And Harry, he looks at her, and she catches his eye. He's like, how you doing? But he doesn't say that. So he's like, I'm here to see my father. She's like, Mr. Osborne, you can take a seat right there. He's like, okay. And he starts flirting with her, like he starts talking to her and stuff like that, talking about her eyes. He's like, you have wonderful, you have really pretty eyes. She's like, oh, thank you. And they're talking, he's flirting with her and stuff. My wife's flirting. Donald Macon comes over, Harry! And Harry looks at him, and he's like, I'm here to see my father. And Donald Macon looks at him like, you didn't hear? And he's like, hear what? He's like, your father's in the hospital, Harry. And then Harry, he begins tearing up. He's like, what? I just talked to him. They said he was here, and I said he should be working. Why is he at the hospital? Why didn't anyone contact me? And Donald Macon is like, calm down, Harry. I can give you the hospital. And he tells him they're in the hospital. And Harry turns straight around. He turns straight around, a complete 180. Gets straight on that elevator. Goes down. He doesn't even say any word. After he says the name of Donald Macon says the name of the hospital, Harry turns straight around, goes straight towards that elevator. He's tearing up. His eyes are red. He's tearing up. He walks straight out the building. The security guard is sitting there going, what? He snatches the keys out of the security guard's hand, and he gets in his car, floors it to the hospital. Gets to the hospital. Gets out of his car. I mean, he is storming. He goes to the front desk. The woman is sitting there. She's a nurse. He's like, I'm here to see Norman Osborn. And his voice is kind of cracky because he's kind of sad. And she's like, Norman Osborn? Excuse me? He's like, I'm here to see my father, Norman Osborn. I'm Harry Osborn, his son. And she looks at him very confused with this, like, what are you talking about? She says that. What are you talking about? He's like, my father is here. He's in critical condition. I'm here to see him. I need to see my dad. And she's like, sir, there is Norman Osborn isn't here. And he's like, what? Norman Osborn isn't here, sir. And he becomes angry. He slams on his desk. What do you mean he isn't here? And she's like, I'm going to have to ask you to calm down. Norman Osborn isn't here. Sir, please. He gets angry. He is furious. And he's like, eyes are tearing up. He's like, my father, I was told he's here. And then the security guard comes over and he's like, excuse me, sir. I'm gonna have to ask you to step out. And he looks at her, and Harry looks at him with this like this face like anger and sadness and so much. And Harry, he with every fiber of his being wants to hit. He looks like he's about to hit the hell out of the security guard. His fists are clenched like this, like he is about to let loose on this guy. Harry looks at him and he tugs off of him, and he leaves the hospital, gets straight in his car, and sits there. And he pulls out his phone, and he calls Dr. Donald Minkin. No answer. He calls Dr. Ratha. No answer. He begins to cry. It's a silent cry, though. It's just tears coming down. And then he looks over at his glove compartment. And he does this really big sniff, like when someone's crying when they're done. He's like, and he does that. And he looks at the glove compartment, and his face begins to go back to normal, like kind of a normal, like it's not anymore like a. It's like now of like a kind of going back to normal, reverting. And he's looking at the glove compartment. And the glove compartment's looking at, like, the camera shifts over to the glove compartment and comes back to him. And then. End scene. The scene ends. And we're with Peter and Eddie. And they're talking. They're in this dojo. They're in the dojo where Eddie trains at, right? And they're talking and stuff. And they're, oh man, they look like brothers. They look like brothers. And Peter and Eddie, they're just talking and stuff. And Eddie's like, yeah, man, they call me the Viper. And Peter's like, is that so? He's like, yeah, you want to find out why they call me the Viper? Come in, step in the ring. And it's like an octagon. Like, think of the UFC. I only say I know UFC is not the only one that has the octagon. I'm thinking, I say UFC because that is the most popular form of competitive mixed martial arts fighting. That's why I say UFC. Okay, because I know some people are like, yes, he's the only one with the roll. Yes, I know. Okay. So they get into, so Eddie's like, come on, get into the ring. And Peter's like, nah, man, I'm all right. He's like, come on, you look like you need some training or something. Come on, man, come here. I want to see how you throw a punch. Come on. And Peter's like, nah, man, I don't want to hurt you. Eddie's like, hurt me? Listen here, small fry. Come see. Let me see if you can hurt me. Come on. And Peter's like, all right. Gets to the ring. Eddie takes off his shirt. He had on like this Under Armour shirt on. He was already wearing shorts. Not short shorts, but they were shorts. And I was like, okay, all right, throw a punch. And Eddie grabs one of the punching hand things. It's like a, I forgot what it's called, but you know what I'm talking about when you punch into it. So he's like, throw a punch. And Peter's like, throw a punch, man. Nah, I don't. He's like, throw a punch. He's like, come on, Parker. Come on, small fry. And he sounds kind of like Flash. Come on, Parker. Come on, small fry. But it's a very, jokingly brotherly thing. And Peter's like, all right. And then we hear Peter in his head, you want me to throw a punch? And I throw a baby punch. And then Peter, he throws this like that, like a just complete, I don't know what that is, and he does that. And Eddie's like, what the hell was that? No, listen, let me show you how you throw a punch. And he gives Peter the thing. He's like, and throws a really good, like that. And it's like, oh man, it's like, and Peter's like, he's Spider-Man, so he's he doesn't move that much. He's like, and then Peter's like, whoa, okay. Eddie's like, wait a minute, hold on, let me do it again. I'm gonna do it again. And he's like, no man, I get. And then Eddie is like, and throws like a really hard jab, and Peter is like he moves back. And he's like, okay, all right. He's like, do that, and Peter's like, do what? And then we see Eddie and Peter training, right? Eddie teaching Peter some moves. Eddie teaching Peter, how to fight. He's teaching him techniques, basically. Think of it like that. So this goes on for about an hour or two and stuff like that, teaching him techniques. And by the end of it, by the end of the session, whatever, Eddie is like, Eddie tells Peter to throw a punch. Peter throws a punch, and it's like a good punch. Like it's not, because when he's Spider-Man, he does the way of the spider, even though we don't know of that yet, in the movies. But in terms of the comics, it's the way of the spider, it's his own martial art or whatever. And it's not a calculated, punch. So we see Peter throwing a calculated punch, but it's still, he's Spider-Man, so he has that spider strength, but it's calculated. Like that, that's what it looks like, okay? And Eddie's like, oh, I'm a good teacher, and stuff like that, and Peter's like, all right, yeah. So then we cut, and it's now the time of the fight. And the announcer guys, it's not a big place that they're at, but it's a big it's a big, think of like kind of a warehouse, something like that. It's a dojo, and the ring is in the middle. It's a whole bunch of people filled around the ring. They're all there, and Peter's sitting there, and he looks to his right, and there's this woman, and she's sitting on a chair, and we just see the side of her head. We don't see her face. And Peter looks over, and she catches his eyes somehow, but he looks back up, and there's this guy. The announcer's like, all right, now introducing blah 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 blah. Some guy that's not important, about to get his butt beat by Eddie, comes in, and then we like, now here comes the Viper, and that's Eddie Brock. Eddie Brock is the Viper. Eddie walks in. He's looking all, kind of. He's looking big, okay? He's looking like he about to beat some butt. And his music is, think of like this kind of smooth jazz-like thing, but it's with some drums in it, and some bongos, and something that sounds cool to the ear, but something that you could get like, oh yeah, like yeah, I'm about to beat some butt, something like that. So Eddie walks into the ring, and he's ready. And then the ref checks everyone out. So, are you ready? And then it's a fight. Okay, now, how the fight goes is like this. Eddie is playing with this guy. He is playing. This is for the championship. Eddie is going against this guy to become the champion. Eddie is playing with this guy. He is like it's nothing. He is just, like dodging everything. The guy trying to take Eddie down. It's not working at all. And Eddie is showboating. And this is the first round. The guy gets one hit on Eddie. One hit. This is how it looks. It's like a straight up jab to the chin. Like, boom. And Eddie stumbles back. So this is what it looks like. It's like a boom. Eddie goes back like that, right? He goes back. When he's going back, he's to his side. So it's like this. So he's facing this way, like boom, and he goes back. But he turns the back, like going back into a kick. He straight up kicks him in his chin. He kicks the guy. So it's like boom, and then he goes like, I can't kick that high, especially in these pants. But his leg goes up like that, kicks the guy straight in his chin, knocks him out. The guy goes straight down. I'm talking about like boom, and that is it. And Eddie wins. He becomes the champion. And everybody's ecstatic. Peter's like, yeah, the whole time he was rooting Eddie on the whole time. And they're like, the winner and the new New York champion is the Viper. And then Eddie puts the belt on, and he's like, yeah, I'm the champion, yeah. And he comes out, and Peter and him are like, yes, man, that was awesome. And then this girl, the same girl that Peter was looking at earlier, comes over, and Eddie's like, I wanted to introduce you. I never got the chance to introduce you to my lovely woman, my lovely lady. This is Felicia Hardy, and she is, in fact, the lady that Harry Osborne was looking at earlier and flirting with. wow. I know it's a strange West song. And Peter's like, oh, hi, nice to meet you, Felicia. She's like, nice to meet you, Peter. And Eddie's like, she works at Oscorp, and Key works at the Daily Bugle. And Peter's like, she works at Oscorp? You never told me. He's like, yeah, well, I'm telling you now. Peter's like, man, we need to celebrate, man. You just won. We need to celebrate. And Eddie's like, I got it. This is what you do. You call up Gwen. We do a double date thing. We do something. I don't know what we're going to do. We do something. Peter's like, all right, man. Yeah, that sounds cool. Peter grabs his phone, and we see his phone, and he has a news alert. And it says, Norman Osborne has died. Then his eyes get big, and he's like, well, what's going on? He's like, Norman Osborne died. And Eddie Brock's like, oh, that sucks. Felicia Hardy is like, Norman Osborne died? And he's like, yeah, that's what it says. That his time of death says 6 p.m. today. Oh, that's horrible. And then Eddie's like, I wonder if we can get any of our parents' research or stuff like that. And Peter looks at him, and he's like, yeah. And then Peter begins, his eye, like he does. We don't hear anything in his mind, but he looks at him like, yeah. Kind of like a, not like he's hiding something or nothing, but he just like, yeah. Because we already know that he has the symbiote, he already got that stuff, but Eddie doesn't know that. He's like, yeah, okay. Alright, yeah, maybe, hopefully we can. And then Peter, then he begins to think. And he begins like, it almost looking like he's looking at his phone, but he has a thinking face on, like, yeah. Now we cut into Harry Osborne. Harry Osborne sitting in his apartment where we first found him at. And he is crying. And it's not like a, like it's, like just similar to how he was in the car. His tears are just pouring down. And he's just irate. And then his phone begins to ring. All the way across the room. His phone begins to ring. He looks at his phone. And he has this face like he's not present. You get what I'm saying? Like he's there, but he's not there. He looks like he's high. So he looks at the drug. He looks at the phone with this very sluggish face with just tears come down. And he gets up. He muscles himself up off the couch. And he staggers over to the phone. And he grabs it. And it's Donald Mencken. And he looks angry at it. And he answers it. He's like, why didn't you tell me? Donald Mencken's like, Harry, I need you to come to Oscorp right now. He's like, why didn't you tell me? You sent me to the hospital. My father wasn't there. I found out he was dead from the news. Dr. Donald Mencken says, there's a car outside waiting for you, and people are about to knock at your door. You're going to Oscorp. When you get there, tell the person at the desk you need to go to suite 006. Why didn't you tell me? He's like, Harry, you're going to go to room 006. We'll speak when you get here. And Harry, he's like, what? And it's a hang up. They hang up on him. And then the door, there's someone knocking at the door. Doom, 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 doom. Mr. Osborne. Doom, doom, doom. And Harry looks up at the door. And he's still crying. His eyes are red, by the way. They're like really red. And he has his phone. And he goes up to the door. And he looks at the peephole. And it's two guys in suits. Look like Oscorp security. Look like the same guys from earlier. They are the same guys from earlier that he met in the elevator. And they open the door. He opens the door. He's like, Mr. Osborne, you're coming with us, right? He's like, Mr. Osborne, we're going to Oscorp. And he's like, what's going on? And he's like, come this way, sir. So then they get in the car, and then what's the Oscorp truck? It's like an Oscorp truck. They drive to Oscorp, and then we see Harry, and he's with the security, and they're walking to the desk, and it's like, they said I need to go to suite 006. And then he's like, okay, right this way, sir. So then the lady is directing Harry with the security to this room, and then it's this, like, think of like this door, and it's like a metal door, and it has a little like window thing, like, you know, like in the freaking schools and stuff, like offices, like that. It looks like that. and they're like, right this way. And then Dr. Donald Minkin, he steps out the door, and he says, Harry. And he's like, that'll be all, guys, just stay out here. You're like, Harry, are you all right? And then Harry looks at him, and he's like, what's going on? And then Donald Minkin, it's this key code thing. He does this thing. It's not like the main Spider-Man 1 code with that. Not like that. It's like something else, but it looks very futuristic. And he does the thing or whatever. And then he opens the door, and they get in. They walk in. And Harry's like, what's going on? Why didn't you guys tell me about my father? And it's this freaking curtain. It's this curtain. And he rings the curtain out. He pulls the curtain out, and it's Norman sitting in the bed. And he's like, because I'm not dead. And we see Norman, he's sitting in the bed, and he's like looking very disgusting. Like he looks like he's dying, like his flesh is freaking fading away. It's all like just like that. And it's, why are you here? You should be at a hospital getting help. Why does the news say that you're dead? And they're like, because I will be dead soon if we don't get what we need. And Harry's like, what do we need? I need your help, Harry. What do you need me to do, Dad? I can help you. I can help you. Whatever you need, Dad, I'll get it for you. And he's like, Peter Parker. And Harry's like, who? Yeah, Peter Parker. And then Norman, while he's in the bed, he does this thing, like he moves his hand up like that. And then this hologram pops up, like the screen pops up at the end of his bed. And it's a picture of Peter and him, like Peter at Oscorp. Picture of Peter at Oscorp. And he's like, and Harry's like, what about him? He's like, do you remember him, son? He's like, no. He's like, you guys were friends growing up. He's like, what? And then he kind of gives him a backstory of like they were friends when they were younger, but Harry had to go to boarding school, so they lost contact. And he's like, I need him. He's like, what do you need from him? He's like, I need his blood. And Harry's like, you need his blood? Why is his blood going to help? He's like, his blood is the antidote. He's like, what are you talking about, Dad? I don't understand. He's like, we need Peter Parker, Harry. Shut up and listen to me. He becomes a bit aggressive. He says, shut up and listen to me. We need Peter Parker's blood. Harry's like, how do I get it? Do I just ask him? He's like, and then Norman's like, that won't work. And Harry's like, why not? If I tell him that my father is dying, me and him used to be good friends, he'll understand, right? He's like, it won't work, Harry. You're going to need to get it from him in another way. And Harry's like, what way? Cut scene. The scene ends. And now we see Peter Parker and Eddie Brock and Felicia Hardy and Gwen Stacy and them all going to the movies or something. I don't know, they go into the movies or whatever. And they're walking into the movie, and while they're walking in, Peter, he has popcorn, and his phone begins to ring. He's like, hello, Mr. Jameson? And he's holding the popcorn. He's like, Parker, I wanted to know if you wanted to work for me. And Peter's like a full-time job? And Mr. Jameson's like, yeah, like a full-time job, something like that. And Peter's like, definitely, sir, yes, I would love it, yes, please, yes, this freelance thing is please, yes. And Mr. Jameson's like, okay, relax, Parker, relax, okay. I want you to know that I'm offering Eddie the same position. And Peter's like, okay, so we're gonna be going against each other? And Mr. Jameson's like, yeah, I want to see who can do the best, who can be the best. And Peter's like, okay, Mr. Jameson, okay, what do we need to do? And Mr. Jameson's like, you know what you need to do. I don't need to tell you everything. If you want to work for me, you need to have the individuality and show the initiative. And Peter's like, Mr. Jameson, I don't understand. What are you talking about? He's like, you know what I'm talking about, and I'm not saying anything else about it. Goodbye. And he hangs up. And Peter's like, I wonder if Eddie knows. That's what he thinks. I wonder if Eddie knows. And then he walks into the movie. And after the movie, once the movie's over, they're leaving. Gwen and Felicia are talking, and Eddie and Peter are talking while they're leaving. Peter is looking at Eddie, and Eddie's like, "What's going on, Peter? You look like you all right?" And Peter's like, "Yeah, no, I'm all right. Yeah, I'm cool." And he's like, "All right, that's good." And Peter's like, "Hey Eddie, did Mr. Jameson call you?" And Eddie's like, "No." "Why? What's going on? Did he call you?" And Peter's like, "No, I was just asking." Eddie's like, "Okay, all right." Then they leave, and then they're like outside, and they're in Times Square too. Gwen and Felicia, they turn to Eddie and Peter and like, "This was so much fun, guys." They both say that almost at the same time, and Peter and Eddie are like, "Yeah, all right, yeah, I had fun too." Eddie looks at his watch. He's wearing a watch, and it's like 11 o'clock, and he's like, "Well, it's getting kind of late. Think I'm going to go home." And he looks at Felicia, and Felicia looks at Eddie, and then they're like, "Yeah, I think it's time that we call it a night, guys. Had a great time. Do you guys need help getting a cab or something? Do you want us to drive you guys home?" And Gwen is like, "No, we can take a cab." And he's like, "All right, okay. Well then, Gwen, it was nice seeing you again. Peter, I'll holla at you later." And Peter and him, they've like brothers and stuff. And then Gwen says bye to Felicia and Eddie. Eddie and Felicia get into a car because Eddie has his own vehicle. Get into his car and they drive off. And Peter is like, why didn't you want to go for a ride?" And she's like, "Because I wanted to go for a swing." And Peter looks at her, and then she looks at him, and then the next scene is just Spider-Man swinging and stuff, and her holding on to his back, and him swinging and everything, and swinging, and he's swinging so nice, and then it's like, so it's just so happy, and then the camera's zooming out, and we see Max Dillon, and he's like standing outside of his house looking up, and he's looking at Spider-Man, and he has this just face, just like a... Max Dillon walks inside, and he's all ready to go to sleep. He looks tired. He looks drained emotionally and physically and mentally, all of that jazz. Then his phone begins to ring. He looks at his phone, and it's Mr. Smythe. He answers it. He says, "Hello?" Mr. Smythe says, Max, did you just get home?" Max says, "Yes." "Well, I need you to come back." "What? I just got home. I can't..." He doesn't say anything. His face becomes a little agitated. He has this agitated expression. He says, "Why, Mr. Smythe?" Mr. Smythe says, "It's an emergency, Max. We need you. Please." Max Dillon then turns around, opens his door, leaves. Cut to black. Now, we cut to black. Us as the audience, we see a black screen. Then we see images flashing and yelling, like it's flashing and flash ends. Then we see the camera is like behind this pillar. It's this pillar. And the camera turns around and we see Max is blue, and he looks like we've seen him in the trailers. He's blue, and his eyes are closed. He opens his eyes. And he starts breathing, and electricity starts coming on. He opens his eyes and he looks. And there's like this containment. He's like hooked up to this thing, and he can't really move. And he looks around, and he's like... And a microphone, it's like a voice from a microphone. "Are you all right, Mr. Dillon?" What happened? Where am I?" "You had an accident at Oscorp. Are you okay?" "An accident? What happened? Where am I?" And then we see this monitor, and we see Max Dillon falling into this pit of eels. And we see him shaking, and then the pit of eels exploding, and this explosion happening at Oscorp. and Max is he's, what happened? How did I get here? Why? And then a screen turns, and it's like him, and he's all blue, and he's, what? Why am I blue? And electricity begins to spot off of him. What's going on? And he begins freaking out. We need you to relax. And then there's like a voltage of electricity sent to Max, and and he's like, it's hurting him. He's, stop, please stop. And then the voice says, Max, we need you, Max Dillon. And he's like, you need me? He's like, yes, we need you. We need you to get Spider-Man. Spider-Man, my best friend. Yes, your best friend, Max. We need you to get him. Do you know where he is? My best friend. Yes, I can find him. He'll come for me. We need you to get him, Max. Okay. How do you want me to get him? We're gonna let you go. And you're gonna draw him out in Times Square. Times Square. Yes, Times Square. All right, Max. And then the lights turn off. We have not seen who Max is talking to. We just heard a voice, and we just saw him in this the containment thing. All right, so now the lights turn off, and all we see is Max lit up. He's lit up and he's blue. And then it cuts to black again. Now, this time when it's black, we hear and we hear screaming. Ah! It's Max screaming. And then it completely cuts to black with no blue, no screaming or anything. And then we see Max is awake. He is now laying on this gurney. It looks like he's in a place where dead bodies go, like a morgue. And he's in a gurney. He's on a gurney. And he opens his eyes. And he's wearing like a containment thing, like almost like the suit that we saw in the trailers. Like in the picture we see Peter Parker, Spider-Man, and Electro like that. He's wearing that. No, there is no hoodie scene in my movie. In my version, there is no hoodie. Okay, so he's laying and he gets up. He's not naked. He's wearing that suit with the little dial on his head. He gets up. He's like, it wasn't a dream. And then we hear like almost it sounds very electric, like almost staticky. Get Spider-Man, like something like get Spider-Man. We need Spider-Man. Don't forget, Max. We need you. And he's, yes. He gets up and he falls down. He's like, and it's very hard for him to can like walk. And then things around him, lights start like going out around him. And he's like, and he's like looking, moving things, hitting things with electricity. He takes each step he takes, electricity goes like around him. And we see the dial on his head, it's going like green, right? It's like moving, fluctuating, but it's green mostly. He gets up and he looks around, he's noticed he's in the morgue, and he's like, Spider-Man, I gotta get Spider-Man. And he has a smile, and he's like, I'm powerful. And he starts electrocuting things and stuff, and he's like, looks like he's having fun. He looks like a child almost, like, choom, choom, choom. And then he gets up to this wall, and he's like, I need to get out of here. And he puts his hands on the wall, and we start to see this ripple effect of electricity going around the wall, and it's like choom, 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 choom. And he puts his hands on it, and it's like, boom, and it blows up completely. And there's like, it's like outside, but it's in an alleyway. And Max sees this like the emergency exit. and it's going up a building. Max looks at it, and it's metal. And he puts his hands on it, and he turns to this like electricity. And think of like instead of his normal form, it's just electricity. And he goes up the emergency exit, but he goes up it, and it's like really fast up to the roof of the building. And he solidifies himself, and he goes, "Whoa, this is awesome!" And he starts to run and like shoom, like teleport almost, shoom, teleport, shoom, teleport, shoom, teleport, shoom, teleport, shoom, and he's like having an amazing time. And then we see on his head it's becoming like the power is becoming like yellow. And he shoom, teleport, shoom, and he lands on this building. And he's feeling a little bit weaker. And he looks, and it's Times Square. And he's like, I need more power. And then the voice goes, Spider-Man, Spider-Man, don't forget about Spider-Man, Spider-Man. I need more power. Shoom, teleport, shoom, teleport, shoom, till he gets to Times Square. And now he's walking. He's walking, and people are kind of looking at him because he's blue, and they're like, "Whoa, what the heck? Whoa!" And then he sees this like vent, and it has. He's looking at it, and electricity begins going up to his face from it, and he's like, "Power!" And he rips the vent open, like in the trailer, puts his hands on it, and goes, "Ah!" And everybody looks at him and freaks out. And then the police are like, "Hey!" And they aim at him, right? And it's just, "Ah!" And now we cut to Peter Parker and Emma Stone. Peter Parker and Gwen Stacy. They're at Peter's apartment. And Gwen Stacy goes, "How's your aunt doing?" He's like, I'm sure she's all right. I haven't spoke to her in a while." And he realizes that. And they begin like kissing and stuff, and they're about to go to his bed. Stop thinking what you're thinking. Anyway, you're about to go to his bed, and all of a sudden, Spider-Man Peter, he looks up at his light, and he pushes Gwen back, and it goes. His light was on, but it like the light bulb. He pushed Gwen back before because spider sense, you know. And she's like, "What's going on?" He was like, wait. And then we see like him focus like outside. He has a balcony too on his apartment. He focuses outside. And then we cut back to Max Dillon, and the police are like, "Stop!" And he's like, "Ah!" And everything around him begins fluctuating. All the lights and stuff fluctuating. He's and we see the thing go back to green. He's like, and he's looking at all the police, and the police are looking at him. And then we cut back to Peter, and he's like, "I gotta go." And she's like, "Okay." And then he runs, and like the suit, you know, materializes on him, and we see him jump out, and we see him do this spinny thing and start web swinging to Times Square. Electro is standing there. All the police are like, "Freeze!" And he's like, "No!" And he electrocutes, like shoots out at the police officers. And they like, and the police officers go, "Ah!" And they fall back. He's like, "I didn't mean to. I'm sorry. I'm sorry." And with each syllable, each time he speaks, electricity flies out of his mouth too. "I'm sorry. I'm sorry." And it's not really big. It's just think of like a static or something. And he's like, I don't mean any harm. I don't mean to hurt anyone." And then the police, after him shooting them out, there's police on his side. And they're shooting at him, and he's like, "No!" And all of the bullets are basically becoming ashes. They're becoming ashes with each time they come near him. And he says, "Stop shooting!" And he does that, and he knocks like this police car up in the air. And there's another police officer, think about the trailer. And he's like, and Spider-Man comes over, and he saves it, he holds it, throws it off. He's like, "You all right?" He was like, "Okay." And then he looks at him, and he's like, hey, relax. And then Max looks at Spider-Man. Get Spider-Man. He's like, "Spidey." And Spider-Man's like, "Relax, man. What's going on? What happened to you? Why are you all electric? What's going on?" And Max Dillon is like, "Spidey, I didn't mean to hurt anyone. Please, I didn't mean to. something happened to me. He's like, I can clearly see something happen. Relax. What's going on? We can help you. He's like, I need you. He's like, you need me, Max? I take that back. He didn't say Max. I take that back. He's like, you need me? He's like, yeah. Do you remember me? It's your best friend, Max. And Peter is like, Max? He's like, yes, Max. And Spider-Man's like, yeah, Max. Max, what's going on, man? We can go somewhere. We can be cool. We can chill out, you know? And Max Dillon is like, I need you to come with me. And Spider-Man's like, you need me to come with you? Where? And the police are all around. There's snipers up. And you need me to come with you? Where? He's like, I need you to come with me. And he's like, where? He's like, I need you. And Spider-Man's like, whoa, relax, man, relax. And when he yells, it's like everything around him, the lights all flicker even more. And Max looks around and he's all on the screens, and he's like, and Spider-Man's like, it's all right. We can go. We can go to wherever you need me to go. I'll go. Let's go. Let's go right now. And then he's like, and then the police, Max begins taking footsteps, and the electricity is shooting out, and all the police are like, don't move. And and Spider-Man's like, leave him alone. Stop. He doesn't mean any harm. It's an accident. This is all an accident. And then what happens? There's a sniper aimed at him. And we hear, prepare to take the shot. And then Max he begins taking steps, and he takes one step over the vent, and electricity just goes shoom. And then he takes the shot, boom, and it hits Electro. It actually hits him, and it goes like that, and we see him dematerialize, and he goes shoom, and he falls back. And when he falls back, Spider-Man's like, oh, and then Electro comes up, and he like, boom, and it like all the cars that are around go in the air and they explode. And Spider-Man, he jumps off of the car that he was on because it blew up, and he goes toward Electro. He webs towards him, and then he goes to like hold him, and he comes to him, and Electro dematerializes, and he comes back up like on this, like near this Times Square screen thing, and he's like on it, and he's flying, but the electricity is shooting from out of his hands and his feet onto the ground, almost like they're propelling him up. Think about if you ever play Marvel Nemesis, Rise of the Imperfects, Johnny Ohm, how he flies. It's like the electricity shoots out of him and is hitting the ground. So it's like that. So he's like, Shah! and all of the Times Square, the screen, the lights, all of that electricity is coming out, and it's violently going into Electro, and he's screaming, Rah! And he's turning like, his face is turning like this red, almost like, ah! And then he goes, Shoom! And he starts shooting at the police officers. Spider-Man, he's on the ground, he's looking up, and he's like, what do I do? And he begins thinking, and he sees there's a whole bunch of people over there, and Electro goes, Shoom! And Spider-Man thinks, what can I do? And we see like the spider sense thing happening. Everything kind of slows down a bit, and the people, they're all like, they're off to the side behind these barricades looking, and they're all, and Spider-Man is like, what can I do? And then he shoots his web. And it goes, basically, it takes all of the electricity just that was going towards those people is redirected into Spider-Man's web line. And he goes, and it just makes it go, and he flies back, and he hits a wall, and he just falls and hits the ground. And Electro, shoom, and the police are shooting at him, and they just get fried. Electro is killing people. Spider-Man is like, Spider-Man gets up, and he looks over, and there's some firefighters. Spider-Man jumps over to it, and he gets the fire hose, and he sprays him down. But when he's spraying them down, like, Electro looks at him, and he does another electric shock to him. and it's crazy. It's like a so Spider-Man has the fire hose, and he goes zoom, and the water is shooting out at Electro, and then there's electricity coming to Electro also. So Spider-Man is going and he's being fried, and Electro's power is like draining, and he goes shoo, and we go back to the dial, and it turns red, and Electro goes and he like falls on the ground, and Spider-Man falls on the ground, and his eyes begin, we see like it coming in and out and going black and coming in and out, going black and coming in and out, and we see Electro on the ground, and this van pulls up. The police are going towards. This van comes up, and it looks like SWAT people, and people wearing suits, and they grab Electro. They grab him, and they put him in the van, and then they drive off. And one dude comes over to Spider-Man, and Spider-Man, he looks at him, and Spider-Man blacks out. And that's it. So, now, we cut back to, Peter Parker wakes up, and he is at his apartment. He wakes up, he's like, how did I get here? And then Gwen is like, are you alright? And he's like, yeah. What happened? How did I get here? And she was like, you came in. And he's like, oh, I don't remember what happened. And then the TV is on. She's like, I saw it all on TV. Who is that? What's going on? He's like, I don't. It's this guy. I said, he works at Oscorp, and she looks at the TV, and we see Spider-Man. Like we see everything I just said with the fire hose and the electricity and Max falling down, and she's like, Max, that's Max Dillon from Oscorp. And he's like, yeah, I just told you that. And she's like, who are those people that came to get him? And as we see in the video, well, on TV, it's the police or the people that look like SWAT members. They're grabbing Electro and throwing him in the back of the truck. And then we see Spider-Man, this person grabs Spider-Man, and Spider-Man jumps up and like hits the mess out of the guy. Like, boom! And the dude falls completely down. And then some police come over. Not police, but more SWAT guys. And Spider-Man webs them and like throws them into like a building, and then jumps out of there, like jumps super high, like shoom, and jumps out of shot. And Peter's like, I did that? And Gwen's like, what? Yeah, clearly. She's like, you hit that guy hard. And he's like, he looks very weird and shocked. Like, I don't remember. Maybe I blacked out from the electricity or whatever. I don't know. And then we cut, and it goes to Electro. Electro is back in the containment thing. And the voice goes, what happened, Max? Max goes, I couldn't get him. I couldn't get him. And then they're like, it's okay. It's okay, Max. You just let us down. And Max goes, no, I can do it. I can do it. He's my best friend. He'll help me. He'll help me. And then they say, he'll help you. Max, he tried to stop you. He just put water all on you. He was trying to kill you, Max. And he's like, no, he wouldn't do that. And then they show the clip. And he's like, he did do it. And Max goes, he's my best friend. He's like, no, he's an enemy to you and to I. We need to get him. We need to stop him. Together we can be the heroes, Max. You're more powerful than him, Max. And Max goes, and he gets sad, and he looks up. He's like, yes, we are more powerful. He's a traitor. He was my best friend, and now he tried to kill me. Max, we need to take him off the street. We need to take him off the street. That's the voice. We don't see the person that's speaking, but we hear the voice. He's like, yes, we can save New York. He's like, that's right, Max, we can do it. And then he looks up. I'm not Max. I'm Electro. So now Spider-Man, Peter Parker, it's the next day. He's now thinking about what he said to Gwen. He hasn't spoke to Aunt May in a very long time. And then he starts thinking about what his, in the dream sequence, what his uncle told him. Speak to Dr. Connors. Peter says, I'm going to go to Aunt May. I'm going to talk to Aunt May. He goes to Aunt May's house. He looks at her and he hugs her. And she's like, Peter, how are you doing? You've moved out. You moved out. It's been so quiet here. And he's like, yeah, yeah. She's like, how are you doing? Are you all right? You can come here if you want. The money is getting funny. And he's like, money is getting funny. But Aunt May, I just want to help you and make sure that you're all right. She's like, Peter, you're stretching yourself very thin with you paying for that apartment and then you also paying me to help me pay the bills. Peter, I'm all right. You don't need to do this. You don't need to. He's like, but I want to. I feel obligated to. And he hugs her and they hug. So then he says, Aunt May, I've been trying to push this out of my head for a very long time. I've been trying and trying and trying. And I haven't been thinking about it that much and I haven't been talking about it that much. But there has to be something that you guys aren't telling me when in regards to my parents. Aunt May's face goes. They sit down. She says, Peter, your father had a very complicated relationship with his best friend and his boss, Norman Osborn. Peter looks at her. She continues. Your father left to keep you safe. Peter says, keep me safe from what? She says, I don't know. I have no idea. He said that he was leaving to keep you safe. And after he left, a few days later, some people came knocking on our door talking about they had died in a plane crash and that they were running away. And then she gets quiet. And Peter says, running away from what? Why were they running? What happened? Aunt May looks and she says, your father was taking his research and he was going to sell it to another company. He was selling out his best friend. Peter goes, what? Why would he do that? Aunt May says, I don't know. I don't know. And Peter, he begins thinking, Why would my dad do that? Why? He wasn't a bad guy, was he? And Aunt May goes, definitely not. Then why would he do that? I don't know, Peter. I have no idea. I don't know. I just know that he dropped you here and left. He ran. And Ben and I, we took care of you. Peter says, and I'm very grateful for you and Uncle Ben. I love you. And he hugs Aunt May. He hugs her. And he says, Aunt May, I need to take you out. Let's go somewhere. And she says, where are you getting this money from, Peter? And he's like, don't worry about it. Let's go somewhere. Let's go out to eat. Let's go somewhere. Come on. And he takes her and they go out to this restaurant to eat. And they're eating, they're having a good time, conversating. It's very human. It's kind of like a montage thing, but it's very human. And with the words that they're saying are very human. And it's just so, it's like you're connecting with Peter and Aunt May. And so after that, they're leaving. And they're going to get a cab. They're hauling a taxi cab. And then we see down the street is Eddie Brock. Peter goes, Eddie. And Eddie goes, Peter. And then Eddie comes over. And Peter introduces Eddie to Aunt May. Aunt May meets Eddie. And Aunt May's eyes, when she hears Eddie Brock, her eyes go, Eddie Brock. And Peter goes, yeah, this is Eddie Brock. And she's like, oh, nice to meet you. And they shake hands. And Eddie's like, I gotta go down to the Bugle. Peter, when are you coming down to the gym? No, me and you could spar. I could teach you some more stuff. Peter's like, soon. I don't know. Sure. This weekend, will that be cool? And Eddie's like, yeah, I gotta go though. And Eddie runs off. And then Peter and Aunt May get into the cab. And Aunt May has this thought-filled face. And Peter looks at her and he says, what's wrong? And Aunt May looks at Peter and says, Eddie Brock? And Aunt May goes, you know that his parents work with your dad. And Peter says, yeah, I know, it's crazy. Do you know anything else about that? And Aunt May looks and she says, no, I just know that something happened with Eddie Brock's dad in Oscorp. And Peter goes, something happened with Eddie Brock's dad in Oscorp. Aunt May goes, yeah, but I don't know what. Richard didn't really tell me. Peter goes, I have to ask Eddie about it. And then they go off. And the cab pulls off, drops Aunt May off at her house, and Peter swings back to his apartment. And he's sitting there, and he's thinking about his father, and his father running away and selling the research that he worked on. Peter's like, why would he do that? I don't understand. Why would he do that? And Peter is deep in thought. Then he goes under his bed and he pulls out the briefcase that had his father's stuff in it, and he's looking through it. Then he pulls out the files, some stuff that he got on the Symbiote, and he's reading some stuff on it. Worked with Eddie Brock Sr. He's just reading some stuff. He's just looking through it. And then he pulls out this like book. It's like a book, and it has all of his dad's work in it, all of his notes and stuff. And he's reading through it and stuff. It's talking about a whole bunch of scientific stuff that's not really relevant. And he sees something. It's like a note to self, and it says, something's going on with Norman, and I don't really know what. And Peter, it catches his eye. And then Peter looks up, and he looks around like he's spider sense going off, and we hear zoom, zoom, zoom. He's like, and then Spider-Man Peter jumps off of his bed. He jumps, does the spin, and when he spins, that's when his suit comes on. It comes on, and then Electro is standing in his bedroom, and he's Spider-Man, though he has on the Spider-Man suit. Electro is standing in his bedroom, and he's like, you were supposed to be my best friend, and he and Spider-Man jumps out of the apartment, and Electro begins to chase Spider-Man, and Spider-Man's web swinging, and he's like, how does he know where I live? And he turns around, and he starts shooting web balls at him, shooting web balls. He like toom, and Electro goes, and it fries on his face. It fries, and he goes, and he starts shooting electricity. Spider-Man's jumping and out the way. It's hitting buildings. Spider-Man's like, this is dangerous. I gotta take him somewhere. And Spider-Man looks over, and he sees like this, it's like near the bridge, almost kind of in Central Park, and he's like, I don't think anyone's there, and he jumps and he's web swinging. He's leading Electro to Central Park, and he's saying jokes to get Electro really riled up and get him to keep following him, talking about him looking like a Smurf, calls him, a whole bunch of stuff, like just a whole bunch of stuff. And they get to Central Park. Spider-Man lands, and he's like, what is your problem? How do you know where I live? And Spider-Man and Electro's like, you were my best friend, and you tried to kill me. You're coming with me. And Spider-Man jumps out the way, and he goes up to him, and he tries to land a punch on Electro, and Electro he doesn't disintegrate, but he becomes electricity, and Spider-Man misses, and then Electro appears back up and hits him like this blow to the stomach, and he goes, ah, with the electricity. Spider-Man flies up in the air. Electro goes up, and Spider-Man is in there, and he shoots a web down at Electro, and it's like his shoulder, and he shoots another one down at the ground, and Spider-Man begins trying to pull himself down, and Electro goes, yeah! And then we see the thing, it's becoming yellow, and it's like the electricity is shooting out, and it's like blue and orange and red, and Spider-Man's like, and he's pulling himself down. We see him pulling himself down until he gets right here to Electro, and Spider-Man goes, ah! Boom! One good to the face, and just we see the electricity. It looks like kind of like a liquidy thing. It goes back like, and Electro goes, oh! And Spider-Man goes, ah, ah, and then we see like almost like the suit is moving, because symbiote's on him. Suit is moving, and it goes like trying to help like fix everything, and Spider-Man goes, ah, and his neck cracks and everything, and ah, and he gets down to one knee, and Electro is like, because Spider-Man is really strong, in case you didn't know. Electro, oh, and it's like we see electricity trying to like heal everything, much similar to how Spider-Man's suit was trying to like fix Peter's hand, and he's like, oh. Electro was like, and he coming back, and Spider-Man looks at him, and he's like, and he webs him, and he webs him down, and then Electro goes, yeah! And he shoots a whole bunch of like rapid. Think of Dragon Ball Z when they be like, ah! It was like that. He was like shooting electricity everywhere, and Spider-Man is dodging everything, and he's getting close to Electro, kicks him in the face. Boom! Electro goes, oh! And then Spider-Man hits him like in the face. Boom! Back, hits him up. Boom! Webs him down. And this is all hurting Spider-Man too. And you can see the electricity with each time he connects with him. The electricity is hitting Spider-Man also, but he's ignoring the injuries. And he hits him up in the air, webs him down, brings him down. Boom! He then goes up to him and he kicks him. Boom! And he tries to web Electro down. And he's like, and he's thinking, and he even says, how do I beat him? What do I do? And he looks over, and there's water. There's water, because they're in Central Park. There's water. He's like, I know what to do. He's like, I'm going to get him in that water. And Electro's on the ground now, and he's all webbed up to the ground. And Spider-Man goes, Sparky, what's wrong with you? You can't be doing all this. Do you know how much it costs for electricity in New York? You're raising my bill too high. And Electro gets up, rah, and all of the web begins to like burn. We see it, and Spider-Man jumps because Electro goes boom, and it's like a shock wave, like rippling on the ground. And Spider-Man jumps, and he jumps high, and he lands on like kind of near on a sidewalk near the lake. And Electro gets up, and he begins flying again with the electricity hitting the ground, like. And Spider-Man looks at him, and he's like, uh-oh, I think it made him mad. And then Electro goes, ah! And Spider-Man jumps out the way, and he goes, ah! And then Spider-Man begins to run around the lake, and Electro is following him. He's coming toward the lake, and Spider-Man is facing this way. Electro's behind him, right? And he's facing this way, and then he quickly turns, and he's like, and he shoots a web ball right in his face. Electro goes, and then it burns, and then we just see Electro getting kicked right here, like, boom! And Electro flying, like, toward the water. He's flying toward the water. And then Spider-Man webs him, and he, like, pulls him, making sure that he hits the water, like, and Electro goes right in the water. Boom! And then we see the water, like, just light up in the blue, and it goes, and it begins to bubble. Spider-Man goes, and he's like, looking at Electro like in the water, and we hear, and then we see a whole bunch of cars pulling up, like SWAT cars pulling. They're all black, and then they get out of the car. The people are getting out of the car looking like SWAT teams, similar to the same people that took Electro earlier, and they begin shooting at Spider-Man. Spider-Man goes, Spider says, and he sees them, they're shooting, and he goes, and he's like dodging everything. It's pretty sweet. One dude, while in the midst of all this happening, we see the camera pull back, so we see Spider-Man right here, and he's like dodging and stuff, and they're all shooting at him, and another guy goes in the water, and he basically has these like huge clamps, and he puts it around Electro's neck, and he pulls him out of the water, and Electro, and he looks really bad. We see that thing is like getting to red, and he pulls him puts the clamps on him, and he pulls him and throws him like into the truck. And Spider-Man is like dodging everything. A dude tries to go up behind him and hit Spider-Man with a baton. Spider-Man dodges the baton, kicks him in the face, and then these other people try to come in, Spider-Man kicking them, and he's just fighting. It's really sweet. It's really Spider-Man just fighting everybody like do until until all of them, like this guy over here is like, he's like, time to go. And everybody like turns around and starts running. He's like, no, where are y'all going? Spider-Man webs one of them and pulls him back. Who do you work for? And then the guy doesn't say anything. And he looks like he's under mind control or something. Like he's like, Spider-Man is like, who do you work for? And he's just, Spider-Man, he puts him down, and he turns around, and he runs into the truck. Spider-Man's looking. He's like, what is going on? And then Spider-Sense goes off, and a guy tries to hit him with a gun. Spider-Man goes, boom, and then they start fighting, and this guy can actually fight. Like, he's like, what the heck? He can actually fight, and Spider-Man, and he's like, and Spider-Man is dodging stuff, and he's trying to hit him, and the guy's moving. So then Spider-Man, he looks at him, and because this guy doesn't look like that. He looks, like he's ready. Spider-Man webs the cheek, and it's like, and he pulls him down, and just connects right to his lip, like pulls him down, whap, boom. Guy goes back, hits the ground. Spider-Man picks him up. Who do you work for, and where are you guys from? And then the guy looks at Spider-Man and says, none of your business. And then Spider-Man's spider sense goes off too. We hear choop choop, and it's and Spider-Man's like, ah! And Spider-Man falls down, and the guy gets off, and he tries to clamp Spider-Man like legs and arms, and we see it like doom, doom, and it's clamped. And then Spider-Man goes just, and then he goes black. Now, what's happening now? Once it goes black, the camera goes into like this first-person mode. So imagine it goes black, and then the camera goes into this first-person mode of Spider-Man, and we see his hands, and they're clamped, and then we look up, and the guy's there, and he clamps Spider-Man's neck. And then the camera goes back, and Spider-Man all of a sudden goes, and hits the guy really hard. This guy goes flying, and when he's flying, he webs him, pulls him back, and goes boom, 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 and hits him really quickly, and then does this big thrust kick and this guy hits a tree and hits the ground. Spider-Man walks up to him and pulls off the neck clamp, and he goes up to him and he picks him up and he holds him up by his neck, and he's like looking at him like that, just holding him up by his neck, like. And the guy looks terrified. And he says, Oscorp, we work for Oscorp. Spider-Man is like squeezing his neck. It's like crazy. He is squeezing the mess out of this guy's neck. The guy, and then Spider-Man looks at him, and Spider-Man does this thing like he's like, and he throws him to the ground. And Spider-Man like jumps really far out of the shot, and it fades to black. Now, starts back up. We see Peter Parker. He's laying in his bed sleep. He's laying in his bed sleep. He wakes up and his phone is ringing. And with his phone ringing, he doesn't know who it is, but he answers it like he's expecting it to be J. Jonah Jameson or someone. He answers it. Hello? Now, this is what's very interesting. The person on the phone is Harry Osborne. And he says to Peter, Peter Parker? Is this Peter Parker? And Peter sits up. Yes? Who is this? This is Harry Osborne. My father told me that you and I used to know each other when we were really young. Peter goes, your father's Norman Osborn? Harry says, yes. We used to know each other. Really? Harry says, yes. Peter says, I'm sorry, I don't really remember you. And Harry says, that's the same thing that I said. I don't really remember you. But my father said that we were friends. We were really good friends when we were younger. But I went to boarding school. I was shipped off to a boarding school. And I didn't really know my father that much. So I guess this is the same relationship you and I have. Peter says, you didn't know your father that much? Yeah, I was shipped off to boarding school. Well, my dad worked for your dad. And Harry says, really? He's like, yeah, he did. He worked for your dad, but something happened with him. I don't really know that much about it. He's like, Well, anyway, I wanted just to ask if you could come down to Oscorp or something, hang out. I don't really know that many people in New York. I was just flown in because of my father's. He died, and Peter says, yeah, I heard on the news. I'm really sorry about that, man. He says, it's okay. I didn't really know him that well, so whatever. But I just want to know if you could come on down at Oscorp. Say that Mr. Osborne wanted to see you. Just come down today. And Peter says, no doubt. All right, sure. Yeah, man, that'd be really cool. Okay. And he hangs up. And Peter is looking like, we were friends. Why don't I remember? Then we cut to Harry, and he's sitting at his desk. He's putting the phone down. And Harry is looking at like it's the table. So remember the website for the was it the Electro or something? I don't know, but it's the website, and it was like, and in the trailers we see that Harry is manipulating things on a table. Right, it's a table and it has a screen and stuff in the table. So Harry is looking at it, and he's looking at some stuff, and he's going through some stuff, and then he pulls up a picture of Richard Parker and Norman Osborn, and it's them like smiling together, and he's looking at it, and he's like, I've never seen him smile. And then we cut. Now it's Peter Parker. And he's on the phone with Gwen, and he's like, Gwen, you busy? She's like, no. He's like, well, are you at Oscorp? And she's like, yeah. He's like, I'm on my way to Oscorp. And she's like, really? Why? And he's like, Harry Osborne called me, and he said apparently that we used to be friends when we were really young. And he called me, and he wanted me to come down, I guess, to hang out with him. I don't even remember us being friends. I don't think I would forget something like that. And she's like, that is kind of odd. And Peter's like, you want to know what else is odd? He said the same thing. He didn't remember us being friends. He said that his father told him that we were friends before his father died. She's like, so you're coming down now? He says, yeah. She's like, okay, maybe I'll meet you or something. Meet up with you. And he's like, okay, all right. So now Peter enters Oscorp, and he walks up to the security desk, and is immediately someone says, Mr. Parker? And Peter says, yes. He's like, come this way. And he's talking to the person who's Donald Minkin. He's like, Peter Parker, wow. Do you know who I am? And Peter says, no. He says, I'm Donald Minkin. I worked with your father. I was your father's, I was Norman Osborn's right-hand man and your father's friend. And Peter says, oh, okay, that's cool. And Peter doesn't really know how to respond. And he's like, do you know anything about my father's work and stuff that he did? And Donald Minkin says, it's a shame what happened to your father, and it's a shame that he did what he did, because he was a great man. From what I knew of him, it's a shame. And Peter's like, I don't even fully know what happened. And Donald Minkin says, I don't know either. The business didn't really concern me. It was just between your father and Norman Osborn, and it was a shame about the plane crash, the situation, and that, and him running off. That was because he didn't seem like that type of person to me. And Peter's looking at Donald, and we can see him becoming more convinced that his father did it. And Peter goes, and he says, get on this elevator, go right up. When you get off, you'll see Mr. Osborne. He'll be there. And he smiles at him, gives him a smile. He walks off, gets on the elevator, and Peter's on the elevator, and he's like, my father really did those things? I thought my father was a respectable human being. Why would he sell out his best friend for money? Why would he do that? Run away like a coward. So then he gets off the elevator, and Harry Osborn is there. He's like, Peter. And Harry and Peter looks at Harry. He's like, Harry. And they shake hands. And when they look at each other, they kind of almost, we can kind of see like a recognition, like they recognize each other almost in a way, like a Peter, Harry, and stuff like that. So it's kind of a recognition. So then they begin talking about stuff, talking about their fathers, talking about how they both didn't really know each other, talking about how Peter's talking about how what he just found out, and Harry knew nothing about it. Harry's like, I had no idea about your father selling out my father. Like I said, I wasn't really around that much. I barely even knew my dad. And we can see Harry has a little bit of anger when he mentions his dad. I barely even knew my father. I mean, and Peter says, yeah, but my girlfriend, she works here for you. She works for you. And Harry's like, really? No doubt. He's like, yeah, she works. Her name's Gwen. He's like, Gwen Stacy. And Peter says, yeah, you know him? He says, yeah, you know her? Excuse me. He says, yeah, you know her? He's like, no, you said Gwen, and I just pulled it up right here. And he's like, oh, that's sweet. What is that? He's like, it's my little computer thingy. And she's like, computer thingy? He's like, yeah, I don't know what they call it, but it's like basically a computer on the table. I can go through things and stuff, go on the internet, go to YouTube, stuff like that. And he's like, oh, that's pretty sweet. How much you think this costs? And he's like, I don't know, probably $1 million. And Peter goes, $1 million? And Harry's like, yeah. But anyway, the reason why I wanted you to come down here is because I wanted to really talk to you about my father, and I want us to be cool, okay? I want us to be cool, because especially with you telling me what happened with your dad and stuff like that, I want us to be cool. I want to feel like I belong here in this city, and I want to have a friend, and I feel like you and I connecting, coming back together, we can be really good friends. And Peter says, all right, man, okay. And then Peter's phone goes off. He answers it. He's like, oh, it's Gwen. And Harry says, go ahead. He answers it, hey, Gwen, what's going on? And she's like, nothing, are you here? And he's like, yeah, I'm at Oscorp. And Harry's like, dude, you should invite her up to the office. And Peter's like, really? And Harry's like, yeah. And Peter says, Gwen, you want to come up and meet Harry Osborn? And she's like, sure, definitely. And then it cuts to Gwen, and we see her. She was looking up Max Dillon. She was looking at Max Dillon, like what happened to him. She turns up the computer. She gets up, and she's walking toward like the elevator, and security is like behind her, but she doesn't realize it. She walks towards the elevator, and she like presses the button for the elevator to open, and she steps inside. And then it closes, and when it closes, we see security like looking at her, and it closes. cut back to Peter. Peter's sitting in the office, and Harry is like, you know, I don't know how my father really did all this stuff. You know, I don't know what his purpose for building this company was. My father was a genius. My father, he did so much. But what was his purpose for building this company? And Harry gets up and he's walking around. And Peter's like, I don't know. And Harry says, I mean, my father, he put so much hard work into this company, but forgot about me. He forgot about me. And now here I am, trying to be the best son that he wants me to be, even though he knows nothing about me. He wants me to be something like him. And Peter says, well, maybe he did the things that he did for you. And Harry looks at Peter. He says, but he didn't even know me. Peter doesn't really know what to say. He knows this is a delicate situation. And Harry says, but there's one thing that I just don't understand. He's my father and I love him. I loved him. I loved him and I didn't even know him and he didn't even know me. Peter says the same way with me, man. I didn't know my father that well. He left when I was 10. He left. He sold your dad out and he left me. And then Harry looks at him and he said, and what happened? Peter said, the plane that he was leaving on crashed. And Harry turns around and he's looking out at the city. It crashed? Peter looks at him. And then behind, and Peter's, Spider says, choom, 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 choom. Then behind Peter, Electro appears. And Peter looks at him, and Electro goes, choom! So, Peter's sitting in the chair, Electro appears behind him, electrocutes, Spider says, choo, 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 choo. Peter looks over, and he tries to jump, but he gets electrocuted, and he falls out. He falls down. It's like, zoom! It's like, and the electricity looks very, very, very bright. So Peter falls straight out. Cut to black. It fades into blackness. So now it fades back in, and we see it's from Peter's point of view. It's this monitor. All we see is this huge screen, and on the screen is Richard Parker and Norman Osborn. They're standing there talking to the camera. Now, Norman Osborn he looks frail. He has a cane. We can't see the emblem or whatever because his hand is over it, but he's holding a cane. He looks frail. So Richard Parker is talking about the genetically altered spiders. He's speaking about the DNA that was put into these spiders being human DNA and stuff like that. And Norman Osborn is just standing there smiling. Okay. So a voice is heard off screen. We don't see. All we see is just the screen with Richard Parker and Norman Osborn. But a voice is heard off screen. We're looking at this from Peter's point of view. So this is first person point of view. We are off screen. Do you know whose DNA is in the spiders? Peter says, what? He's disoriented because he's just waking up. What? Do you know whose DNA is in the spiders? If you're listening, your father said human DNA was put into the spiders. Whose DNA was it, Mr. Parker? What are you talking about? Don't you ever think why it worked on you? And his eyes kind of come in. Why what worked? Why it worked on you. A man injects himself with lizard DNA, and the lizard DNA completely becomes the dominant gene. Becomes the dominant form of DNA. It takes over completely. Why is it that the same thing didn't happen with you, with the spiders? Peter, now we see Peter and his eyes go like that. And he doesn't say anything. I mean, shouldn't you be a giant spider going around the city? Why is it that you aren't? Peter says nothing. See, there's things at work, Mr. Parker. There's moving parts. Things that are much bigger than you. You don't understand what you're tampering with, boy. Peter says, who are you? You don't need to worry about who I am. You just need to worry about getting yourself into trouble and getting those that you love around you into trouble. If I were you, I would watch myself, Mr. Parker. This is much bigger than you. And then it basically, the screen just turns off. And it's just now we see Peter, he's sitting in this chair. He's in this chair and he's in this room and it's all white, but the screen is off. He's just sitting in the chair and he's trying to look around. And then Harry Osborne walks in front of him and he looks at him and he says, I love my father. Peter says, Harry, I love my father. I love my father and I don't know him. It doesn't make sense. You love your father and you don't know him either. I'll do whatever for my father because he's my dad. But if he was just some random guy on the street, I wouldn't care. But because he's my dad, I actually care. And he's gone. Peter says, my dad's gone too, Harry. What's going on? What's going on? Peter begins to get a little worried look on his face. He's dead. He's dead. My father is dead, Peter. Peter begins to, he starts looking down at he's locked in, so there's bracelets in the chair. He starts looking down at him. And Peter's spider sense goes off, choom, 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 we hear it. And Peter, he goes, and he's trying to basically push himself out of break the grips. And Harry goes to him and he holds Peter's face like that. He says, do you understand what is going on? Do you understand what is happening? I'm supposed to be in charge of this company. You and I are supposed to be friends and I don't even know you. I'm surrounded with so many people that I don't know. And everyone has this idea of who I'm supposed to be. And then he looks at Peter. And Peter looks very freaked out. And he's like, Harry, relax. I don't know what's going on. You're right. I don't know. And I don't know what you're talking about. Why am I locked up? Harry, he ungrips his face and he starts laughing. He looks at Peter and he says, do you know what happened to your dad? Peter says, what? Harry says, do you know what happened to your dad and your mom? Harry walks, he turns around, and Peter says, they died. Harry says, yes, of course they died, but do you know how it happened? They didn't have a heart attack. Peter says, no. Harry looks at him and he starts to chuckle. And he begins walking as he's chuckling. Peter says, Harry, where are you going? What's going on? And Peter begins to get a little, his voice begins to kind of like become uneasy, like he's getting angry. He's like, what's going on? I'm not playing any more games. And Harry starts laughing and he says, you don't understand what you are. Harry looks at Peter. He says, you are the perfect cross species. You are a human and a spider. perfectly in sync. You are my Father's work. Your Father's work. Peter looks at Harry as if he's crazy. You are what your father and not my father strived to create. Listen, Peter. I, in no way did not mean you any harm. Peter looks like, what is he talking about? He looks very confused. Harry then continues. But I need you. I need you, Peter. I need your blood. Peter goes, my blood? Yes, I need your blood. Now it's apparent Harry is crazy. It's pretty apparent Harry is nuts. Okay, Peter is like, I need to get out of here. Peter begins struggling to break the locks, and he's like, oh, don't worry, Peter, you're not gonna break the locks. You can't. And he says there's some titanium thing, aluminum, blah, 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 blah. As a matter of fact, I'm going to say they're titanium. There you go. They're a titanium alloy. They're super strong. They're super strong. You can't break that, Peter. You're not strong enough. Peter begins, he doesn't do the Tobey Maguire. He doesn't do that. He then gets mad. He goes, his eyes just become, and he goes, and breaks straight out of it. And then Electro appears behind him again, and Peter looks at him, and shoots a web ball at him, and Harry looks at him, and he says, Peter, stop. And he pulls out like this, it's this, think of like mace, right? Like a mace. Think of it like that, but it's actually a chemical that hurts spiders. Off. Anyway, so he goes, shh, and he shoots it at Peter, and it hits him, and he goes, ah! And it looks like he's burning. And we see the symbiote then wrapping around it, right? And then Peter jumps, and he becomes, the Spider-Man suit appears on him, and he lands like that. And Electro goes, choom, choom, and he starts shooting at him. And Harry goes, it's like spraying the mace. And Spider-Man webs Harry and pulls him like far, and Harry like straight up hits a wall, hits the ground like boom, and he hits it hard too. It's like boom, boom, it hits hard, and Electro goes choom, choom, and then Peter says enough, and he webs like Electro's hand. So the electricity then goes to Peter, and he pulls Electro close and goes boom, and when he hits Electro, it's like electricity, kind of like earlier. Electricity just flows straight into. So it's like, think of an explosion, like boom, and they both fly back. And Spider-Man flies through this door out of the room in which he was being contained. And we see that it is the place where, in the trailer, where the Man Shadow was walking by. And it was all of the stuff with the Dr. Octopus stuff and the Vulture stuff. And Peter lands on the ground, and he's on the ground. And then, Harry is on the ground. The little explosion and some things, it's like a small fire in there. A little explosion. And Spider-Man, he looks up, and he cracks his neck like that. And he like is trying to, make himself feel better. He's like stretching, and he gets up, and his spider sense goes off again, and he's like, I need to get out of here. Spider sense goes, choom, choom, choom. Then we go over to Harry Osborne, like getting off the ground, and he's kind of bloody. And Electro is there, and Electro's on the ground, and Harry walks over and he says, get up, get up. And Electro looks at Harry, and Harry says, we need to get him. And Harry starts coughing up blood. It's like, and he coughs up blood, and he's like, we need to get him now. And then it cuts. So now we see Peter. Peter is at home. And he is right now going over everything that he just went through. He's going over the things that he said about his father. And he's trying to make sense of it all. What was Harry talking about? Is Harry just crazy? I don't understand. Why does he need my blood? Then he starts thinking about the DNA thing. What was he talking about with the DNA? Whose DNA was put into the spiders? Was it my own? My father wouldn't test on me. No. But I thought the same thing about him selling out his best friend. Why would he sell out his best friend? If he would sell out his best friend, then he would test on me. And then Peter gets mad. He goes, "Rah!" And he goes to the briefcase. And he starts like pulling out the files. And he's looking through it, and he's thinking, my father tested me. And we see like kind of flashbacks, things of like Peter's blood being extracted by his dad, and his dad looking very sinister, and him taking it to Oscorp. And Peter gets mad, and he throws the bag across the room. Really, I'm talking about like hard. And the briefcase breaks. It's like boom, and the briefcase breaks. It's a leather brief, but it breaks. Okay, break. So it breaks, and there's a seam. We see this thing like fall out. Peter goes over to it, and he picks it up, and it's this paper. And the paper reads an address. An address. Peter looks at the address, and he goes over to his computer. And he looks up the address. And it's some like abandoned warehouse. An abandoned warehouse. Peter then he runs and jumps out the window and web swings to the warehouse. So he lands at the warehouse, and he's looking around, and it's like all burnt and stuff, and it looks very, very, very weird. It's all burnt, and he walks, and it's this door. It's like this huge door. And Peter's looking at it, and something he has like an idea of like he needs to get to the other side of this door. So he tries to open it, and it doesn't open. So he's Spider-Man though, super strong. So he goes to it, and he just boom, the door flies all the way across the room, and it was huge. It was really big. Peter walks in, and there's this like, think of stairwell, but the stairwell leads to just the ceiling. There's just the ceiling, and it's a very old, rundown warehouse. He looks at the stairwell, and he's like, "What is this place? Why was it in a hidden compartment in his dad's briefcase?" So he looks at the stairwell, and he steps on the first stair, then he steps on the second one, and then he's like, "What am I doing?" And then he steps on the third one, and his spider sense goes off, and like there's like a freaking he turns around, and there's a freaking gun, and it shoots, and he goes whoa, boom, and it hits the stair that was up above. So he's like right here, boom, it hits the stair, and then like the stair crumbles. Peter looks at it, and there's a basement. The stairwell is going up, but it's covering an entrance. Peter looks at it, and he like pulls the other stair. He yanks it. It's concrete, but he's Spider-Man. He's super strong. And he looks down in it, and he crawls his way. He makes his way down, and he gets in there, and there's like this laboratory. It's a laboratory. He's looking at the stuff, and it's like a whole bunch of information. It's these computer screens, these monitors, and it's this one particular screen. And the screen, it says something about last saved, and it says some date like 90 something or 2000, but yeah. So he looks at it, and he presses play, and he sees that it's his father. It's his father. And his father has left this message talking about the reasons why he left, why he like left and escaped and all that, why he took the research and all that, he says this. He says that, first off, he talks about the research, and he says that the spider's DNA that he used, the human DNA that he used in spiders was his own. So the spiders would only work with his own DNA, meaning that if they wanted to make a cross-species thing without the spider completely taking over, for there to be a balance, it would have to be his own DNA used. So it would have to be him as the test subject, or his son. Get it? Second thing he says, the reason why he left is because he found out what Norman Osborn was doing. Norman Osborn was creating he was using all of his research and creating all of these cutting edge technology things and selling them to like other foreign countries, like foreign military country things. Is military a word? I don't know, but he was selling it to like things like North Korea and stuff like that. He was selling it to that and selling it to the big man, the Kingpin. And the big man is, we don't know much about Big, but he says he was selling it to the Kingpin of crime, and he was selling it to other like I said, foreign military things. He's selling it to that, and that is the reason why he in fact put his DNA in the spiders, because he was going to sell that to create these super soldiers, super criminals in the sense. He was selling this research and all of that work to those people to create these super soldier criminal people. So he said he's not doing that anymore with my work, and that the spiders will only work with his own DNA. Now, because of him doing that, he knew, he says in there that he says that Norman Osborn is a very, very manipulative and basically evil. He doesn't use the word evil, but evil man. So he knew that he would not be allowed to just quit, especially with Norman Osborn being his close friend. He would not be allowed to quit. So he knew that he had to run. He and his wife had to run, because it was especially apparent that Norman Osborn wasn't playing no games when Norman Osborn went and sent somebody to his house to ransack his place to get that info, get that research stuff. Because Richard left and took the research and first changed Spider thing. Norman got mad, was like, that ain't happening. And he sent people over to the house. That's when Richard Parker like, okay, I'm getting my son, take him to my brother's house, and you and I, Mary, we leaving, and all that. So, and this whole video is him on the airplane. So, he's on the airplane. He's saying all this. He says that Norman Osborn was coming for him, so he needed to leave and take his son to his brother's house, who is Uncle Ben. He says a message to Peter. He says, "I love you, Peter. I'm so sorry that you and I may not get to see each other again. I really do apologize, and it was not my intention to hurt you. Things don't work out that way." And then we see Richard Parker's wife, Peter's mom, and she says some wonderful things to Peter, and they really apologize, and they're crying. And then all of a sudden we see Richard, we hear like this like door, and the door opens, and this is on the video. The door opens, and we see Peter, and he has tears in his eyes, and he's looking, and he's like, "Oh, I can't believe it." And this door opens, and Richard Parker, so think about it like this, all right? I'm Richard Parker, right? And this is how I see. So it's like that. And he goes, and he's like, "What's going on?" And it's this guy, and Richard Parker is looking at him, and we hear this. We hear, "You thought you were going to get away, didn't you?" Nah. And Richard Parker is just looking, and then all of a sudden we see, boom, and he hits the mess out of Richard Parker. I'm talking about hits the mess out of Richard Parker, goes down, and Mary, she looks up, and she tries, she can fight too. It's sweet, she can fight. She's like trying to fight and stuff, and we see like her get overpowered, and he punches the mess out of her. Richard Parker gets up, tries to grab him by the neck and trying to choke him, and the plane begins to go like that. We see the laptop or the camera, whatever was filming. I'm assuming, well, in my story, it's filmed with laptop. We see the laptop then turn, and we see it's like this pullback angle, and Richard Parker is like trying to choke the mess out of dude. The dude is shoving Richard Parker into the wall, and Mary gets up and she like has this glass and it's broken and she stabs the guy with it. He kicks the mess out of her. She flies over. The plane is going like that. She flies up onto the roof of the plane. Richard Parker still trying to hold. The guy goes, doom. Richard Parker lets go. Started bleeding at the nose. Guy goes, boom. He pulls out a gun and he's about to shoot Richard Parker. And then Mary comes over and she grabs his hand, doom, and shoots the window. Window is now everything going crazy. All this vacuum coming and his plane going like that. All this stuff going buck wild. Then the mom, she's like, doom, trying to shoot. He starts shooting more windows. And then he hits the mess out of her with the butt of the gun in her nose. She starts bleeding and he shoots her right in the stomach. Like boom. And then she goes down. She falls down. And Richard goes, Mary. And he runs over and he punches the mess out of the guy. And he punches him. And he takes the gun and he goes, boom. And he shoots the guy all up in his stomach and stuff. And the plane is going down. And then the laptop's going up. And then it just goes black. And Peter's sitting there. And he is in disbelief. He's in disarray. He can't believe it. All this information that he just got. He begins to cry silently. He looks around the laboratory. And there isn't much in there. It's very dusty. He looks around. And he's thinking that he needs to take some stuff. He needs to come get some stuff. So he walks over to grab something. Then his phone rings. He picks up the phone. And he looks and it says Harry Osborne. He reluctantly answers. There's a voice. We hear Harry. Peter, why'd you leave? I need you, Peter. I told you. Peter says, I'm not playing any of your games, Harry. I don't know what's going on. I don't want to be a part of whatever you're doing. I'm done. Whatever happened with my father and with your father, I'm done. I'm sorry your father is dead, but it has nothing to do with me. And Peter's still kind of red-eyed. Harry says, you're sorry my father is dead. You and your father are the reason he's dead. And now I have the task to make everything right. What are you talking about, Harry? Come to George Washington Bridge and find out. Click. Peter looks, he's in the laboratory, he's standing there, and he puts his head down, and he begins thinking, what is going on? Why is Harry attacking me? Why? Spider-Man, Peter, turns around, spider suit comes back, it just, it comes up, forms to him, turns around, he goes through that stairwell, he gets out and he web swings away, and he begins web swinging to the George Washington Bridge. He web swings there, and he's sitting there, and then it's this power plant, like this huge plant, like it's just all this stuff. It's like this electric plant thingy. And Peter's standing there, and he sees this blue light. It's this huge blue light, and it's like and it forms like this electricity, and it forms his face, and it's Electro. And Electro, and we see the mouth move, and we hear it, and he says, Spider-Man, you are the bane of my existence. I loved you, I idolized you, and you try to kill me? Well, now I will kill you. I am more powerful than you can even imagine. And Peter is standing there, and he's like, Max. And he doesn't finish his sentence, and he says, what is going on? It's like, did I wake up, and was this everybody hate me day? What's going on? And then Electro, he goes, ah! And like the electricity flies out of his mouth, and it hits the top of the bridge where Peter is. It hits it. Spider-Man jumps off the bridge, and he begins web swinging down to where Max is. He jumps, and he lands, and then he begins like spinning away, dodging all the electricity stuff. And then Max Dillon, he solidifies himself. He is huge too. He's like, rah! And he goes, choom, 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 choom. Spider-Man doing all this cool web swinging stuff, flipping his stuff. Spider-Man says, how many times do I have to beat? And when he's about to finish beat you, he gets electrocuted, and he lands, and he goes like through one of the plant's things. There's all this fiery explosion, like, and he hits the ground. He skids across the ground, choom, 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 and he lands. And Electro, he then becomes back normal size, and he goes, now you will die. And he goes, ah! And he starts absorbing all of the electricity from everything, and he becomes this just all this colors like blue and red. Ah! Ah! And then Peter looks at him. He looks at him, and he gets up, and he starts like freaking rolling out of the way. He starts rolling, trying to get some distance between him and Electro. And Electro is all electrified, and Peter is looking up at him, and he's like, how can I beat him? Then he looks around at all of the plant stuff. He looks around, and he's like, how can I beat him? And he looks up at Electro, and Electro goes, and it's like this blue, fiery blue electricity coming towards Peter. And Peter jumps out of the way, and it hits the power plant thingy, and it explodes. This big explosion. It's like boom, boom, and then the power in the New York just goes out. It doom, doom, boom, and then we cut to Eddie Brock, and Eddie Brock is in the Daily Bugle, and he's sitting there, and the power goes on. He looks around. He's like, what's going on? And then he gets up, and he walks into J. Jonah Jameson's office. He's like, did y'all forget to pay the bill? And J. Jonah Jameson looks at him. He's like, ha, 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 ha. And he says, what's going on? He's like, why is the power going out? And he looks at Eddie, and he says, why is the power going out? Eddie says, I don't know. And he says, is that electric guy? What about if you have pictures and stuff about it? He's like, yeah, I have pictures, and I was writing about it right now, but it just went out, and I can't finish the article. And he's like, okay, so are you gonna figure it out? Are you gonna go out? You're supposed to be a reporter. And Eddie says, yeah, I'm reporter. And J. Jonah Jameson says, yeah, reporter. And Eddie says, you mean I don't work freelance anymore? I have a Daily Bugle job as a reporter? Mr. Jameson, that's my dream. Thank you so much, Mr. Jameson. Thank you so much. Oh, my goodness. And he says, yeah, go. Find out what's going on. And Eddie Brock says, you're not going to regret it, Mr. James. The power is out in New York, and Electro is like that. And Spider-Man is just, he's like, he doesn't understand what can he do, how can he beat him. Electro starts, we see him, we see like electricity, bits of it just coming from out of darkness, just going to him, and it starts going quicker and quicker, and we see him go, ah! And he's charging, and Spider-Man is like, what happens when you overcharge a battery? It explodes. And we hear him going through this all. He's like, perhaps there's some way I can get him to overcharge himself. Some way I can get him to turn on the generator and collect too much energy from it. And Spider-Man looks at the generator, And then he looks at Electro and he says, "Hey, Sparky, man, you're making all this ruckus. You're waking up all the neighborhood kids." And then Electro goes, and he tries to shoot him. Spider-Man jumps out of the way. And he said, I am really surprised. You could say that I'm shocked with you. And then Electro goes, "Shut up!" And Spider-Man goes, "Yeah, that wasn't a good one. Sorry, let's do it again. I said I was shocked." And then he shoots another electricity thing, and Spider-Man jumps out of the way. And he said, "I need some better material," as he's running. It's kind of a joke to the audience. Whatever. Okay, so now Electro he's like kind of big, and he's all glowing, and he's like charged. He is charged. Cut to Eddie Brock. Eddie Brock is he's like on the roof of the Daily Bugle, and he's in the helicopter, and the pilot is turning on the helicopter and everything's going and stuff, and the helicopter pilot's like, "We don't have the instruments aren't working because of the power outage." And Eddie Brock's like, "We need to get there. Can you fly this thing without the instruments?" And the guy's like, "Yes, but that's dangerous." Eddie's like, Listen. I'm a reporter, okay? I'm a journalist, okay? We can do it. We're safe. I'm Eddie Brock Jr. What's your name?" And he's like, "Steve." He's like, "All right, Steve, listen. We need to get to wherever the source of this blackout is. We need to figure out why. We've got all these people running rampant. We got this Shocker guy, this Schultz dude, Shocker or whatever. We got some Rhino dude, calls himself the Rhino. He's driving down traffic and all this stuff. And now we got this big electric guy. All of this stuff is happening. Listen, we need to get there. I'm Eddie Brock, a part of the Daily Bugle. Steve, are you a part of the Daily Bugle?" He's like, "Yes." He's like, "Do you want to see the Daily Bugle succeed?" And he's like, "Yes." He's like, "Well then, let's get to getting. Come on, man. We don't have much time. Come on. We're the Daily Bugle. We are the people. We give the people news. We want to give the people news, right?" And Steve's like, "Yeah." He's like, "Well, come on then. We need to keep going. We need to go." And Eddie Brock's really dedicated and really serious and stuff. And it's passionate. And it's kind of a funny scene. It's passionate. And Steve is like, "Okay." He's like, "All right, then, let's go. Why are you standing there? Come on, I need some energy. Come on, we need to go. We need to get there. We need to go." And he's like, "Okay. All right, let's do it. Let's be for the people." He's like, "Let's be for the what?" "Before the people." "The people of what?" New York?" "Yeah, there we go. Let's get this helicopter going. Let's get there." Then we see the helicopter start, and it takes off, and we hear them on the like the headsets, and they're like, and Eddie's like, "Okay, fly this thing a little bit better than you're flying, because it's kind of like," and he's like, "I don't have any instruments, remember?" He's like, "All right, well then let's go." And then they go. So now we cut back to Spider-Man, and Spidey is now, he's like hiding behind something, and Electro is looking for him, and he's like, "You think you can hide from me, Spider-Man? You're gonna jump out and try to kill me again?" And Peter's like, "Try to kill him?" And then Electro, he vanishes behind him. We saw like it was kind of a shot when Electro was behind, and now he appears in front of Spider-Man, and he has his hand on Spider-Man's throat, and he starts flying up. And as he flies up, electricity is flying everywhere, and Spider-Man is like that, and he's holding him by his throat, and the grasp is beginning to thicken, and we see it begin to like turn his neck red. It's a symbiote, remember. It begins to turn his neck kind of like a hot red. And we see electricity is flowing. And then Electro says, "You were going to kill me?" And they're all up in the air. And he goes, and we see the electricity flying into Peter and flying through him. And Peter goes, and all that. And then he's like, "You were going to kill me? Well, now I'm going to kill you." And then we see him just and all that, and electricity is flying and jumping off of him, and it's just jumping off, and it's all that, and it's crazy. And then Electro goes while he's choking him, and we see electricity fly even more through him, and Peter is and then Peter tries to punch Electro, and he punches him, and it's like an explosion, and he gets rocketed out of Electro's hand, and he hits the ground, and he's on the ground like that, like he got tased. like that. And Electro's like, ah. And we see his face, like come back. It was like a kind of an explosion from it. Then it comes back like that. Electro goes, you done goofed up, Spider-Man. You're done. And like that, and he's real mad. He's real menacing. And he starts like shooting a whole bunch of electricity. Spider-Man's still on the ground. And then we hear toot, 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 toot. And Spider-Man, he then jumps up. He does this like roll, jumps up. And he jumps up towards Electro and kicks him right in the face, causing another explosion. Boom! Spider-Man flies back and hits this like one of the electrical field thingies. He goes through it. It's this like mini explosion. And he falls and he hits the ground. And Electro, and he's now on the ground. And he's on his feet. And he looks at Spider-Man. He's like, "You're not going to hurt me. You can't." And Spider-Man, again, he's on the ground. When electricity is coming towards him, he jumps up and he like does this spinning kick right to Electro's other side of his face. Boom! And another explosion, making Spider-Man fly back even further now. And he flies through some more of the electrical grid thingies. And now he hits the ground. And he's sitting there, I can't take much more of this. How do I get this power on? And it's Electro, and he's like, "You're not going to hurt me. You're only killing yourself. Please let me do the honor." As Electro, he begins to walk towards him, and Spider-Man jumps up in the air, and he jumps and does this flip, and it sends a kick right down onto Electro's forehead, or like on the top of his head. So it was like, doom! And Electro goes down, and it's another explosion. Spider-Man flies up, and Electro goes straight toward the ground, and Spider-Man's up in the air. So it's like, doom! And Electro hits the ground, and Spider-Man is now in the air because of the explosion, and he's like that, and then he's like, and we hear him say, "I can't move," and he hits the ground, doom, 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 and it looks very violent, like how he hits the ground. He's like, doom, like he lands right there, doom, and he's power, and Electro's on the ground now. And then we see Electro, like kind of turn into electricity. Like he turns into electricity. He's not solid now, and he vanishes. And Spider-Man is on the ground, and he looks like that. He gets up, and he's like cracking everything. He's like, what in the world? I didn't sign up for this. And he's looking, and he's like, okay, the generator. Where's Electro? And he looks up like straight ahead, and there's this Oscorp thing. It says Oscorp, and it looks to be like a control room. So Spider-Man, he does this like web slingshot thing, or web not catapult, but like he pulls himself back, choom, and he goes straight through the glass into the control room, and he lands, and he's looking around, and he hits the button that's supposed to be for the power of the generator, and it's not working. He's like, oh my goodness, okay, there needs to be a backup generator. There has to be a backup generator somewhere. How do we get that to work? How do we get that? And then he jumps out, and he's now climbing on top of the building. He's getting to the roof of it, and he gets to the roof, and there's this satellite, and the satellite is like, he's facing this way, and he's like, what is this? What is this doing? Is this relaying information? And Spider-Man, he looks, and he sees this small red generator. He's like, that must be a backup generator. It looks like one to me. He goes up to it, and it looks like it's gas powered. And he goes up to it. It's like the lawnmower thing. And he goes, and it doesn't work. And he goes, and it doesn't work. And he's like, boom, and it's like really quick, doom, and it's like, you know how a generator goes. And then he runs, he climbs like over the roof, and he lands. So he jumps off the roof, and he's going out, and he webs, and he swings back into the control room, and he sees it, and he sees now that the things are like going up, and he looks out, and he can see that the the poles are beginning to light up. And he looks at the generator. That generator's still off. And he hits the button. Doom! And then it turns on. And then we see Electro come out of the so behind him it was like some screens. And we see Electro come out of them now. He comes out of them. And boom! It shoots Spider-Man right through the window. Spider-Man hits the ground. And Electro is like, you thought you were gonna get rid of me? Well, you just turned on the power. Big mistake. Cut to Eddie Brock. Now, Eddie Brock is flying in the helicopter, and he's looking over at the bridge, and he's looking at the plant, and he's like, he sees like lights stuff happening, like lights lighting up. It's because there's a blackout in New York, and he looks at it, and he's like, there, we need to go there. He goes there. So the helicopter now is going there. All right. Cut to Spider-Man. Spider-Man is on the ground, and Electro is like, now we'll see how much power I really can get. And he starts like growing in size. And Spider-Man looks up, and he's like, oh boy. And he starts growing in size. Spider-Man looks at the generator, and he's like, Electro, I need you to get that. Please, I need you to get that. And Electro is growing in size, and he begins like just just like sending out so much electricity. Spider-Man jumps up, and he's web swinging, off of the little thingies, the little like pole thingies. He's web swinging. Electro is like shooting electricity through him, and he's big. He's shooting electricity through him, and Spider-Man is dodging all of it. And Spider-Man jumps off one of them. And he jumps like towards Electro, and he lands basically so Electro. Think of Electro as being, I guess, 4 times his normal size, right? So he lands like on Electro's. I'm trying to think of a good representation. Okay, so like this pencil is Electro, right? And Spider-Man is this, like that. Okay. So not 4 times size, but like that, okay? So Spider-Man lands, like, on his, like, his, like, torso. And as he lands, we see electricity is flowing through Spider-Man, and we see it, and he's like, and he goes, boom! And electricity just goes, and it's an explosion. Spider-Man goes off like that, and he comes back, boom! Boom! Like that. And he keeps doing it. And Electro goes. And he starts, like electricity just starts flying. And Spider-Man keeps going. And he's like back. And so the generator is back here. And Electro is stepping back with each. Boom! It's like that. Boom! Like that. And he keeps stepping back. And Electro, he pulls out his arms and he goes, and it starts like so Spider-Man is about the size of like his torso. Electro has grown that big. So he keeps hitting up Max in the face. Boom! And he keeps stepping back. Max takes his hands out. We see the electricity. And he's aiming it at himself, at Spider-Man, but himself also. And Spider-Man is... boom! And Spider-Man keeps going back. And then it's like, shh. Now, Eddie Brock is coming up and he can see it. And he's like, what's that? And Eddie Brock takes out his camera and he's taking pictures. And then he pulls out, it's like Steve has this like screen like in the front of the helicopter. And when they get close to the fight, when they can see it, all of the powers, the electricity, the electrical powered things in the helicopter light up. And he cuts it, the screen comes on, he's like, the camera, get the camera, turn the camera on now. And they turn the camera on and we can see, it's like an overhead view of Spider-Man just punching Electro and the explosions and Electro and like all that. And Eddie is looking at it and he's taking pictures. He's like, whoa, what's going on here? It's like, this is that electric guy. And he's looking at it and all that. And cut back to Spider-Man. And he hits one more time. Boom! Spider-Man is Electro's like, shh. Spider-Man looks over at the generator and he's like, okay, this could hurt. And he webs the generator. He webs at the generator. And the web is going, so we see it come out, and it's going to the generator. And it hits the generator. And then we see the electricity is coming back to, so it's shooting, the electricity is coming from the web to the generator. And now it's coming back from the generator through the web. Spider-Man quickly snaps, like he sticks the web onto Electro. And he jumps off of Electro. And he lands on the ground. And he lands. He's not on his feet. He lands just straight on his stomach. Just like, okay, that's not his stomach. But he tries to land. And it's like that. Straight on his stomach. And he looks up. And we see Electro. And then we see the thing on his head is become green, green, yellow, yellow, red, 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 red. And Electro goes, and he's like that. And Spider-Man's looking at him, and Eddie's taking pictures and he's filming it. And then the generator begins sparking. And the generator's sparking. And Electro's... And the generator keeps sparking as things all around him start sparking and sparking and sparking. And the sparks are flying. The sparks are flying. And then the generator, the red generator at the top, begins to spark, 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 spark. And then Electro goes... And he completely... blows up. Electro blows up. The generator at top, on top of the control thing, blows up. That's a gas generator. It blows up. The generator that was connected to Electro blows up. All of the little tower thingies blow up, and it's this explosion. The helicopter that Eddie Brock is in, it gets hit by the shockwave and electricity, and it begins to spin out of control. It begins to spin. And they're and they're spinning. And then when they're about to hit the ground, Spider-Man connects a web to their helicopter, and he basically pulls it that way. It doesn't do a crash landing, but it kind of skids. And it lands on the ground. And everything is all smoke and debris filled. And it's all the aftermath of the fight. And we see Electro's little thing that was on his head. And it's no more. It's nothing. It's no light or anything. And then the power in New York comes back on. We see the cityscape come back on. And Spider-Man, he's on the ground again after he saved, after he webbed up the helicopter that way. When land on his side or face, head, it made it skid, and he's back on the ground again. Eddie Brock and Steve, they get out there perfectly fine, and they go up to Spider-Man. And Spider-Man looks up at him. And they're like, oh my goodness. And they don't really know what to say. And they help Spider-Man up, and Spider-Man looks at him, and he sees that it's Eddie. And Spider-Man doesn't say anything. And Eddie looks at him, he's like, Spider-Man, are you alright? This was amazing. We got a lot of this on film. It's crazy, good, amazing. You saved us. You stopped the electric bandit or whatever. And Steve is in shock, and Spider-Man is standing there looking at them both. And then choop 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 choop, Spider says tingling, and the building behind them, the generator exploded on, the fire, it exploded. The fire is now, that whole thing is on fire, and the roof falls, and the roof falls down, And when that roof falls, it hits the part where Spider-Man was in with the control. And that hits, and that falls, and then the building comes tumbling down. Spider-Man webs Steve and Eddie up, and he gets them. And he like begins to jump over the helicopter. And he like lands and runs. And Eddie's like, wait, stop. We got to get the footage from the helicopter. And Steve's like, I already got it. And he pulls out his phone while he's on Spider-Man's, like, back. And so he's pulling out his phone, and his phone flies out of his hand. And Eddie is like, Steve! And Spider-Man jumps over the helicopter, and they run, and he jumps away out of the way of the building. The building lands on the helicopter, and he puts Steve and Eddie down, and he pulls out, he like does that to Eddie, and Eddie's like, what? And Eddie pulls out his phone, and he's like this, and Spider-Man takes it, and he like hits 911 and hit dial, and he gives it back, and Spider-Man jumps, and he webs away, and he webs up, like he just web swings away, and Eddie and Steve are in shock, and they're looking, and then Eddie's like, come on, Steve, really? What was up with that? Why you pull the phone out? And Steve's like, I'm sorry, I didn't, really? You pulled the phone out when we're being, and it cuts from that. It was like just a little comedic moment. Spider-Man is web swinging away, and he gets this and his phone begins to ring. He pulls out his phone. As Gwen Stacy. So now we see the mask go like that. So there's no mask on now. He's wearing the Spider-Man suit. It's red and blue still. It's been red and blue. He pulls it out, and he answers, hello, Gwen? I'm so happy that you called. And then there's nothing. It's just air. It's just air on the phone. And Peter's face goes, Gwen? And then we hear laughing. Peter his face turns real serious. And it's Harry. Harry says, hi, Peter. How are you? I watched your fight. And Peter goes, what are you doing with Gwen's phone? I really watched your fight, and I just have to say I'm so impressed. You really showed Electro who's boss. You know, he was going to kill you. That was his goal. But, you know, you stopped him. That was great. You killed him. And Peter's like, I didn't kill anyone. He's like, where's Electro, Peter? You killed him. Just like you are responsible for my father's death. You and your father. I think it's just the Parker thing. It runs in your blood. Peter goes, Harry, where's Gwen? I mean, everyone around you just seems to, unfortunate things seems to happen to him. Your uncle, Gwen's father, Electro. I mean, now who? Now who's next? Is it Gwen? Is Gwen next? Peter says, Harry, stop whatever you're doing. This is not between Gwen and you. This is between you and I. Leave Gwen out of it. Harry, please. Peter. My father created an empire. He created an empire. And now he's gone. Who's to blame for that? Whatever happened, I don't know. I have nothing to do with it. Harry, please. Leave Gwen out of it. Where are you? We can speak. We can talk. You want to talk? We can talk. Look to your left. Peter looks to his left, and there's the bridge. That's where we are. He hangs up, and the mask comes. Spider-Man jumps out, and he starts web swinging. Spider-Man web swing to the bridge. He lands on the bridge. No one is there. He is completely alone. There are no cars on the bridge. There's no one on the bridge. Peter even says, why aren't there any cars? He looks around and is silent. Harry! Peter yells out. no one is here. Then his phone rings again. And he answers it. And it's Gwen. He answers it. And there's just this noise. Like that. He doesn't know what's going on. He has absolutely no idea. And then his spider says, "Choom, choom, 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 choom," and he sees this glider. It's a glider. It's coming, and it's going towards the bridge. No one is on it. And he's like, "What is that?" And it's going towards the bridge. It's not going towards Peter's. It's going towards the top of the bridge. And it gets to the top, and it like goes, and Spider-Man jumps, and he jumps really high, and he lands like he's halfway to the top of the thing. He jumps really high. He's halfway there, and he starts running up the wall, and he jumps off the wall, and he lands. And there is this green thing. It's a goblin. And it's there, and we see it, and we can see that it's Harry too. So it's like Harry's face, and it's all green, and it's kind of morphed, and it's just and we see it's there. And he's looking at Peter, and Peter's like, "Harry, what happened to you?" And Harry has this big smile, and he doesn't say anything. And Peter's like, "Harry, what is going on? Please, whatever's going on, leave Gwen out of it." And Harry just looks at Peter, and Peter starts walking towards Harry. And as he walks towards Harry, Harry just stands there. He's looking at Peter. And Peter, he's walking towards him. And Harry's still just like... And when Peter gets like, he's getting nearer, Harry starts actually laughing. I can't do that laugh, but it's very, very, very creepy and crazy. And Spider-Man walks towards him, and Harry goes, and he throws this fast punch. Spider-Man jumps out the way, and they start fighting. It's crazy. They're on top of the little bridge thing, and they're fighting. It's like crazy. Think of Captain America. It's like fighting, man. They going at it. They are fighting, fist to fist, dodging, so all this stuff. Some punches connecting on Spider-Man, some punches connecting on Harry, some stuff missing. It's crazy, all this stuff. Spider-Man jumping over him, trying to web him, can't web him, and all this. And then, all right, so now Spider-Man jumps, and he goes over Harry, and he tries to kick Harry. Harry moves out the way, grabs his leg, and he like straight up brings him down to the ground. He does this boom right on Spider-Man's face. Spider-Man on the ground, and he like and he webs Harry's face, pulls him down. Boom, boom, boom. Harry goes and Harry is bleeding now, and he looks at Peter, and he like has this thing pops out of the glider. We don't know what it is, but it's this thing. It pops out of the glider, and Harry looks at Peter, and he goes, and he grabs it, and he throws it at Peter. And so think of a bag. It was like a bag, and it popped out of the glider, and he threw the bag at Peter. And while the bag was flying through the air, some like pumpkin bombs come out of the bag, and they're going towards Peter. Do 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 do. Boom! Explosion, and it explodes, and Spider-Man is flying off of the bridge. He's flying off of the bridge. Spider-Man webs back onto the bridge, and he comes up, and he like freaking kicks Harry in the face. Harry goes, and he looks at Peter, and he says, "Enough is enough." And he pulls out a gun. And he's shooting quickly. Spider-Man dodging everything. Dodging all that. And he runs up to Harry, and he kicks him in his chest, and Harry flies off of the bridge. And when Spider-Man, he looks over, and he webs Harry, that way he doesn't like fall. And when he webs him, it's like it hits Harry, and it stops him from falling. And then Harry looks up at him, and he has these like the things that Batman had, the things, the claw things, and he hits the web. And when he hits the web, he throws up this like gas, and it hits Peter. And he can't see, and it's like, and he opens his eyes, and there's smoke all around him. It's smoke everywhere, and he's looking. And then we hear the laughing again, and then we see Harry is standing So he's on his glider. He's standing out on his glider, and he's looking at Peter. And in his arms is Gwen, and he's looking at Peter, and he's like, "Do you love her?" And Peter goes, and he runs to jump at Harry. He runs to jump at Harry, and Harry looks at him, and he punches the mess out of Harry. Like, boom! It's a really hard punch, and Harry, he is sent like flying off the glider, and then Gwen falls out of Harry's arms. And Gwen is falling, and she's completely asleep. She looks asleep. Gwen is falling, and Peter he jumps off the glider, and he's diving towards her. And they were high up. They were higher than the bridge. He's diving towards her, and then Harry, he hits the ground. We see Harry hit the ground, and Peter's going towards her, and he looks at like a flagpole, and he goes to, and so this is it. The flagpole is out. They're falling, and they're high up. And Peter, he grabs onto the flagpole, and he webs at Gwen. He webs at her, and then he lowers her down, and he jumps down, and there she is on the ground, and she is dead. But okay, so he looks at her. Yeah, she's dead. He looks at her. And he's looking at her. He's like, "All right, Gwen, you all right, Gwen?" Now I want to just play this back again. Okay, how it will visually look. We would see Spider-Man coming down with Gwen, and then he holds onto the flagpole like, and the flagpole bends. Also, it bends, and when it bends, it goes up and almost breaks like into the brick. So it's like, and it breaks into the brick. I don't know if that's what happened. I don't know. It's my story. And it breaks to the brick, so now it can't bend. There is no room for bending. All right, and he lands it. So he's like that, and then we would see her falling. We would see like her falling from like this point of view. So the camera be down here. We see her falling head first, right? And then we would go back, and we would see the camera. We would see the web attached to her leg. Would attach to her leg. And it would be too late, right? So it would go like a you know, it does what it did in the comics when it pulls her leg like that, and it snaps her neck, and her head would also hit the concrete, and we would see it, and we would see it like the camera would be back, and we would see, and her eyes aren't open though, but it's like, and then Spider-Man. Then we would see him like lower the web. That way she now on the ground like that. He jumps down, and he goes to her, and he's holding her, and he looks at her, and he's like, "Gwen, come on, Gwen, wake up, Gwen, you all right, Gwen?" And then we see his hand is on the back of her head, and we see blood. Blood is on his hand, and then she starts bleeding out of the nose. He's like, "Gwen," and he starts crying. Vigorously, he starts crying, "Gwen, Gwen, Gwen, Gwen!" And then he looks over at Harry, and he's still holding Gwen, and he starts crying so hard. He starts crying, and we see Harry's on the ground, like we don't know if he's dead or not. Harry is right now the least of Peter's concerns. He's looking at Gwen. He pulls out his phone, and it's 911, and he hits call, and he puts his phone down, and then he places Gwen down gently. He looks up at Harry, and he starts walking towards him, and he's not saying anything. He's walking towards him, and Harry's on the ground, and he's walking towards Harry, and he's walking, and he looks crazy, and the mask begins to come up slowly. The red and blue begins to come up slowly, and it comes up, and he's walking towards Harry, and then Harry doesn't say anything. He's just like that. His head moves up, and he looks at Peter. He opens his eyes, and Harry's eyes are like reddish, like a reddish yellowish. The white, so where it should be white, is like a reddish yellowish, and he's looking at him. And Harry's green and just looks horrible. And Harry's wearing like this this hood. It's like it. So I didn't even describe the Goblin's outfit. It's like this hood, right? Think of kind of like the 616, but not as lame. It's like a hood, and it's kind of technological and stuff, but it looks very similar to the comics. It's a purple hood, you know. It looks pretty neat. It looks rad. So Peter is walking towards him, and Harry looks at him with his eyes. He just looks at him, and then we do spider sense goes off, and there's the glider is coming straight for Peter. Peter looks at it, and he jumps over. So he's like, think of in the comics and in the Spider-Man 1 Raimi franchise, he jumps over it, and the glider is coming towards him, and now it's coming towards Harry, and Harry is on the ground like that, and he's looking at it. And Harry jumps up, and he lands on the glider, and shoom, takes off. And Peter goes, no. And he webs at the glider, and is now hanging on to the glider, and he's like pulling himself up to the glider while it's going, and it's like that. And Harry's trying to shake Peter off, and he's like, and Peter is like hitting buildings and everything. He's just climbing up like that. He's climbing up, and he's hitting buildings and everything. He's hitting buildings. And then once he gets up to the glider part, it's where his hands are. It, like some knives come from out of the line, straight into Peter's hands. We hear the spider do, and it goes straight through Peter's hands, straight through both of them. And then this gas just comes out, and we hear like some explosions. It's like, and Peter is just sitting there. With the knives through his hands, and the explosions kind of hitting his face, and the gas hitting his face, and then Peter, and then the knives are pulled out of his hands. They're pulled out of his hands, and he's falling down, and Peter's falling down now, and he sees the glider just going past, and he has these tears in his eyes while he's falling. He's just looking at the glider go past. And he doesn't say anything. He's just looking. And he hits the ground. Doom. And he's just looking. And it's a long fall too. He doesn't say anything. He just has tears in his eyes. And he's looking at the glider, and it keeps going. And he's just looking. He's looking at the sky now. He's just looking at the sky. He's in like an alleyway. He landed in an alleyway. He's just looking at the sky, thinking everything is lost. He gets up, and we hear everything cracking, and then we see the symbiote, like with the red and blue. We see it like kind of forming and stuff, and we see it like his limbs like shifting into place, and he's walking. And he web swings back to the bridge, and he's now without his spider suit. He's Peter Parker, and he's with Gwen, and he's holding her, and he's holding her, and he's crying, and then we hear whoop whoop, and the police are coming now, and he's crying, and he's crying, and he's crying, and the police get there. And then the scene ends. So now, we cut to, it's like this little thing of like her funeral. Peter's there, and his aunt is there, and Gwen's family is there, and it's kind of sad. It's actually really sad. Peter he's not saying anything at the funeral. He's with his aunt. His aunt is trying to comfort him, but he's not saying anything. And then they go to the we see they're at the cemetery, and they lower her coffin into the grave, and then it cuts, like it's like a transition, and it's nighttime, and it's like her grave. This is Gwen Stacy, 1994 through 2014 or whatever, and we're looking at it, and she's dead. The coffin is there, and he's looking at it crying, like silent cries, just with tears coming down. And then we cut, and Peter is now sitting in his room. Sitting in his room, looking at the wall, and he's thinking, I killed her. I did it. maybe Harry was right. I'm everyone around me. I just bring nothing but pain. Uncle Ben, Gwen's father. Now Gwen. I don't understand why. Gwen's dad said to stay away from her, and I didn't. And now she's gone. She's gone. A 19-year-old girl. She had her whole life. She was about to go to college, and she's gone because of me. And then Peter's phone starts ringing, and Peter looks at it, and it's Eddie Brock, and he answers it. And Eddie is like, "Peter, oh my goodness, I've been calling you for weeks, man. You haven't been answering. I'm so sorry. I'm at a loss of words. I'm so sorry. I saw in the news, man. I'm so sorry about Gwen. I'm so sorry." And Peter's like, "Yeah." And Eddie's like, "I'm here for you, man. Whatever you need, I'm here for you. I just got the full job at, I got the job at the Bugle. I'm full time now, reporter, and man, we need to hang out or something. You want to come down to the gym? Maybe let off some steam." Peter says, "I'd like that. That'd be cool." Eddie's like, "All right, man, come on down. I'm there now. Come on." And Peter's all right, and he hangs up, and he looks up at the picture of Spider-Man that he had on his wall. He looks at it, and he rips it down. Like, he rips it, and he's at his apartment. And he's looking out the window at the city. He's looking. And he's about to jump off, but he doesn't. He turns around, and he for the first time in the movie, he opens up his door, and he leaves that way, closed the door behind him. And the movie ends. Now, the credits begin to roll, and we also see, like, it's like a picture over here while the cameras are rolling, while the credits are rolling. It's Eddie Brock, and it's Eddie and Peter, and they're like fighting and stuff like that, and he's like helping Peter, and Peter he's kind of teary-eyed while he's fighting and stuff. They're sparring, and he's training Peter. We see like him training him and stuff while the credits are rolling. We see him training him and everything. And then we see Eddie Brock proposing to Felicia Jones. We see Eddie Brock proposing to Felicia Hardy, and her saying yes, and all of that. And then and then we see Eddie Brock and Felicia Hardy. They're all happy and stuff. And then we see Peter. He's all very, very distraught and sad. And then it ends. So now there's this screen, like this wall filled with screens. I'm talking about screens, and it's Spider-Man fighting Shocker, Electro, Lizard, the Rhino thingy, truck thing, Aletsky Sketskovich in the truck, not Rhino, but Gossip the Rhino, whatever. And there's this chair facing it, just facing all of it. We see behind the chair in this long table, and there's people at the table, only two people, guy with the hat and the stuff, man shadows, and this guy with glasses. And they're both looking at it too. And the guy with the glasses says, "What an interesting specimen." And the person in the chair, he says, "Yes, you should have seen it. He took down all of these people." And the person in the chair turns around and it's Harry, and he says, "That's why we need you, Otto, because you have a lot of contacts." And Otto says, "That I do." He says, "Great, because we need a team." "And how big do you want this team?" "Something manageable," Harry says, as he has this weird smile. And we look, and then the camera zooms back, and we see Otto, the Man Shadows, and Harry Osborne at the end of the table, like he's the boss, and all that. We see it zoom back, and then it flashes and ends. And that's it. That's the end of The Amazing Spider-Man 2, my story. Let me know what y'all think about this in that comment below. Let me know. I'm going to do 3. Yes, I'm doing 3, and I am also going to do 4, and the Venom movie. I'm debating if I do the Sinister 6. I know how I would sort of do the Sinister 6, but I really wouldn't do a Sinister 6 movie. I would do something like a miniseries, something on Netflix, something. But that's just me. So yeah. Let me know what you guys think about my movie. Let me know what you guys think, what you like, what you don't like. And yes, as always, thank you guys for watching. I have been saying comment, rate, subscribe, peace out. Peace, guys. Have a good one. And Gwen Stacy will be Carnage. Optimus Prime be getting beat this dude in every single movie he gets beat. He is nothing. I don't think of him as the bad dude who's about to come and save everybody. He gets beaten every single movie. What is up with that?
Venom 2 million.